090 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Me and my mum, and it looks real, doesn't it?
It isn't. I thought that was real when I first saw it.
Yeah, not that you'll be able to see it, but anyway, it's me and mum.
Things like that, AI is amazing, isn't it? Because your mum's no longer with us.
Yes.
You've got a lovely video of you hugging her.
Yeah.
Which is lovely.
Which is not real, but anyway. It's but I liked it. Like the idea, I thought they've done it very well.
Yeah.
It's quite. But good luck to kids learning to tell the difference between all of that.
Well, we are talking about education today. Lots of you getting in touch. Edmund says, my grandson ended up going to hospital with stress over his exams. GCSEs are too much, I think. They've gotten harder and harder. They're not like they were when I was at school. I only got 3 exams done at 16 and then I dropped out afterwards.
What, you get 3 exams at 16?
That's what Edmund got. He says GCSEs are much harder now.
There we go.
Peter says some of us were self-sufficient at 15 years old. We were growing our own food, we were collecting fuel for our fires, and we had paper jobs, not playing with phones and on social media all the time.
That's a very good point. That's absolutely right. You know, people were fighting in the First World War and the Second World War at 15, 16, 17. And, you know, I mean, pressure. I mean, I just think I think we should teach kids to be more resilient.
Yes.
That's the thing. I think that you just can't say they've buckled and we see that as the latest stage. Some of you may agree with me, but I mean, everybody. I mean, how the heck? I could bore you silly, believe me, bore you silly with pressure and things you did for school and you know, what was expected. There was just no tolerance for any leniency in my school at all. But we got through it and I can say happiest days of my life still.
Well, maybe resilience needs to be taught in the national curriculum. Maybe it needs to be taught more
Resilience,
at home.
good idea.
GB News, the People's Channel.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
The #1 news channel in the country.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on Budget Eve here on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK with the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. is what's coming up on today's action-packed show. We've got some breaking news for you. US media are reporting that Kyiv has agreed to a peace deal brokered by the President Donald Trump. And I'll bring you all of the very latest updates. Meanwhile, back in Westminster, with less than 24 hours to go to the most widely feared budget in modern history, a damning poll shows Rachel Reeves is in the last chance saloon and is losing the room. But with the Chancellor claiming any criticism of her is misogyny, is Labour not just losing the room, they're losing the plot? And the National Crime Agency has launched a rural crime crackdown after it's emerged that gangs of East European criminals helping to fleece British farmers of £44 million worth of gear last year. But I'll speak to a farmer today who blasts British farming's biggest thief is the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. And the government is axing premium brands from its Under Fire Motability scheme after analysis found that an astonishing 85% of claimants are making additional payments to get luxury motors like BMWs, Mercs and Audis. Now, with the scheme costing £321 million last year, is it time to scrap it altogether? And a fashion designer has been accused of ramming woke politics down our throats by releasing a designer clothing range made from the wool of gay sheep. Yes, gay sheep. On today's show, I'll ask a sheep farmer, can a sheep really be gay, or is this simply another bad joke? Well, to show, well, less than 24 hours to go now until a budget that is having many people looking through their fingers in fear. We live in a country where the jobless will get a 4.3% pay rise tomorrow, while 9 million of those working people will be dragged into higher taxes to pay for it. With £3 trillion in debt, yet the Labour Party seems incapable of cutting spending, while you get up in the morning to go to work to bankroll it all. At 5 o'clock, I'll be joined by a builder from Nottingham who says things are so bad. He says it's time for a national strike. He works in areas of Britain where nobody gets up before 11 a.m. They shuffle around in onesies. They have Motability luxury cars. And all the time he's digging on a building site thinking, what's become of modern Britain? We'll have all the analysis on that budget all the way through until the wire. I'll be with Chris Hope, the best in the business, in the studio. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now it's time for your latest news headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon to you. Just after 3 o'clock, well, major movements this afternoon on the Ukraine peace negotiations. A senior Ukrainian official telling the Reuters news agency that Kyiv supports the essence of the draft peace framework shaped in last weekend's US-Ukraine talks in Geneva. But we understand the most sensitive points still need to be settled directly between President Zelensky and US President Donald Trump. Ukraine's national security chief also says President Zelensky could travel to the US within days to try to finalise an agreement to the ongoing war. Well, that comes as Sir Keir Starmer here in Westminster has told MPs he's received fresh briefings on those talks, saying his best understanding is that Washington and Kyiv have agreed a draft, but he stressed the proposal is not new and key details remain in flux.
Focus at the moment is on a ceasefire, so anything along those lines is a long way off. But, you know, we have to remember that Putin is the aggressor here. He is the one who started this war. On territorial integrity, the sovereignty of Ukraine is paramount, and that's why any questions about the future of Ukraine must be determined by Ukraine. And that is why I've been speaking frequently to both President Trump and President Zelensky. President Zelensky probably 5 or 6 times in the last 2 or 3 days on a whole range of issues.
Well, just sticking with that news, in fact, a line from the Reuters news agency saying that the White House press secretary has released in a statement that there are a few delicate but not, she says, insurmountable details that must still be sorted out, requiring further talks between Ukraine, Russia and the United States. In other news this hour, Graham Linehan has been cleared of harassment but found guilty of criminal damage over the incident involving a trans activist's phone. The court heard he deliberately whacked Sophia Brooks' phone from her hand outside a conference last October before throwing it into the road. Today, the judge ruled his online posts did not meet the threshold for harassment, but the damage to the phone did. Linehan, who denied both charges, spoke outside court, saying he acted on reflex and arguing he had been targeted for his views on gender identity.
Very pleased by today's verdict. The judge found me and the women who gave evidence on my behalf to be credible, honest witnesses and said that my actions were not criminal and did not constitute harassment. The judge commented that the complainant, a well-known trans activist, was not truthful. There are a group of dangerous men who are determined to bully women and girls and to misuse the courts and police in furtherance of a misogynistic agenda. I'm proud to have stood up to them and I will continue to do so. I'm grateful to the Free Speech Union for their unwavering support and for helping to ensure that those who speak out against these dangerous activists are protected.
News on the budget, and Rachel Reeves says she still will be Chancellor in 2 years' time, hitting back at what she calls misogyny in public life and insisting she won't be driven off course. She's also warning Labour MPs that tomorrow's £30 billion tax-raising budget must be backed as a single package. Speaking to the Parliamentary Labour Party, she said recent leaks were incredibly destabilising, urging her colleagues to close ranks and focus. Ms Reeves says unity and discipline are essential if the government wants to earn a second term. Well, Shadow Levelling Up Secretary James Cleverly has been giving his reaction.
I don't think it's legitimate to criticise person for basically their chromosomes. So I'm critical of her because she was completely dishonest in the lead up to the general election about their tax plans, that she has ramped up taxes, she is killing jobs, this constant briefing, U-turning, rebriefing, re-U-turning is crushing confidence in the British economy just at the time when we need it to be most active. These are the things she should be criticised for, not because she's a woman.
Let's take you live to scenes in West London, where a major incident's been declared, where 150 firefighters or so are battling a large blaze at a warehouse in Southall. Crews were called to the two-storey building this morning after residents there reported hearing huge explosions. The London Fire Brigade says a warehouse and retail unit are still alight. They're urging people nearby to keep windows and doors shut because of the thick smoke. And French police have this afternoon arrested 4 additional suspects in the investigation into last month's spectacular Louvre jewel heist. Prosecutors say the group, 2 men, 2 women, were detained today, joining 4 others already under formal investigation after the daylight robbery. 4 thieves managed to escape with more than $100 million in gems, raising serious questions about security at what is the world's most visited museum. Today, investigators admit there's still no trace of the stolen jewels. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with you in around half an hour. Next, though, a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
8 minutes past 3, here are the markets for you. The pound will buy you $1.3138 and €1.1387. The price of gold, £3,145, 43 pence, that's per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,534 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. Now, I've got some breaking news in this past 30 minutes, and it's this. US media, they've reported that a Washington official has said that Ukraine has agreed to a peace deal brokered by Donald Trump. Let's get the very latest update now from GB News' political editor Chris Hope, who joins me in the studio in Westminster. Chris, could this finally be the end of the war in Ukraine?
Well, the UK government is downplaying these reports. In fact, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, in the House of Commons chamber, has said this. He suspects this could be a briefing, an update from the Geneva talks over the weekend. But as we speak, a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, convened by Emmanuel Macron of France and Sir Keir Starmer from the UK, is meeting virtually. We'll get a readout of that later, and that'll be quite a full readout, and we'll know a lot more later. But this is big news here. We heard earlier that how the Prime Minister spoke to Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. They discussed British troops on the ground in Ukraine after any peace deal. Will that be acceptable to Russia? Probably not. The FT is reporting moments ago that the stumbling blocks looks like it's land swaps and security guarantees. What that means is, will the US and others guarantee the security of Ukraine in case Russia come back for more after a peace deal? And how much of the land that Russia has taken by force will be allowed to stay with Russia? And how much what will Ukraine agree to on that? So the key issues, the sticking points, are land swaps and security guarantees. But as things stand, the government is suggesting just cool your heels. Nothing agreed quite yet.
OK, I'll have more on that later in the show. I wonder if the British public will have a big thing to say about the prospect of British troops on the ground in Ukraine.
That is a debate we have yet to have properly on GB News, and it needs to be had.
Precisely. We'll come back to that later in the show. Moving on back to domestic troubles now, and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. She's accused her critics of misogyny and called on nervous Labour MPs to unite behind her ahead of tomorrow's budget. But also, in a defiant message, she insisted she'll be the Chancellor in 2 years' time, as businesses across the country brace themselves for incoming tax rises tomorrow. But Is this her last chance to win voters over? Well, before I go to Chris Hope, let's now get my next guest in, and that's the Executive Director of More in Common UK, and that is Luke Trill. Luke, welcome to the show. A sobering poll out today for Rachel Reeves. She hasn't even fired a shot in tomorrow's budget, expected to be an incredibly painful moment for the British public, and already her popularity is in the basement, the least popular Chancellor in recorded history. And an incredible poll that you guys got out today says that she's losing the room in Britain. Tell us more.
Yeah, so we found that her polling this week has reached a new low. Her net approval rating, that is the proportion of people who think she's doing a good job, minus those who think she's doing a bad job, is now at minus 52. That's just 1 point lower than Keir Starmer, who also hit a new personal low at minus 51 this week. And it is fair to say that expectations for Wednesday's budget are very low. People expect their taxes to rise. They do not expect that it will put more money back in their pocket. But if, as you can see on the screen, there is one silver lining, it is that people do think Rachel Reeves is willing to take unpopular decisions to do what's right for the country rather than just doing what's popular. Interestingly, they don't say the same of Keir Starmer. They tend to think that he tends to do what's popular, even if it's not right for the country.
The trouble is with that, though, Luke Trill, unpopular decisions can mean painful outcomes for the British public. One figure that leapt out at your poll today really made me do a double take. 57% of the British public are unsure of whether the cost of living crisis will ever come to an end.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is, again, that is the highest we have recorded. Before last year's budget, it was 47%. Under Jeremy Hunt, before his last budget, it was in the 30s. So rather than making progress on the cost of living in people's eyes, it looks like things are going backwards. And the fact that nearly 6 in 10 people don't think the cost of living crisis is ever going to end spells really serious trouble for this government, and the pressure is on in the budget to put forward some measures that start to put money back into people's pockets that help them. Obviously, there have been some measures around prescriptions and trains. I guess the question is, will there be some sort of cost of living rabbit tomorrow that starts to get the figures on that graph going down? Because if they don't, it's going to be very hard to win re-election.
Luke Trill, 68% believe public services are in a bad state. That was meant to be the Labour Party's redeeming factor. Public services, 73% think the same about the government's finances and the British economy. All of the metrics, Luke, are going downhill faster than Eddie Edwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's why we called our report into public attitudes to the budget, Let's Do the Doom Loop Again, because for lots of the public, it does feel like we are trapped in a doom loop, that things are getting worse. And they are starting to lose confidence that this is the right government to deal with those challenges. So they are very much in last chance saloon when it comes to public opinion. They've got to use tomorrow to try and turn things around. But one thing is for sure, that the cycle of briefing in the run-up to this budget has not helped. For the first time, we've had people in focus groups saying, why do they keep putting stuff out and then pulling back on it? It's left the public confused. It's left the public thinking the government is chaotic, and there's not much confidence ahead of tomorrow. Maybe that means that the government can only surprise on the upside, but the public mood is so low that the government is going to have to try hard to raise it up.
Luke Trill, it really is the most sobering set of figures, and that's before a single shot is even fired in the Commons tomorrow. The Executive Director of More in Common UK, superb poll. Thanks for coming on today and sharing it with us, Luke Trill. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Back to the studio with you, Chris Hope. It really, really is looking solemn. It's looking grim. There's no hope in the tank. The British public are unsure whether this will ever end. It feels like a nuclear winter of incoming taxes. This isn't me saying it. This is the electorate saying it. Can anything come out of the hat tomorrow that's going to make this pain go away?
I can't see where it is at the moment, Martin. They want to raise around £20 billion worth of taxes. They want to increase the amount of headroom they have. This is the kind of rainy day fund for things going wrong, from 10 billion to 20 billion as well. And that could mean in total maybe 30 billion being raised, because they've got to try and ensure that they don't need to come back for more taxation next year and the following year. Having said that, this time last year, this wouldn't happen. We're getting a feeling now of some of the bad news coming our way. There'll be a tax on a tourist tax, it seems. That's been talked about this afternoon.
£2 the night, City Cons,
yes,
London.
A tax on holidays is being seen by Rocco Forte, the hotelier. There's also a milkshake tax, because that means they're going to reduce the level at which tax is imposed on sugar content in drinks.
And also on coffee. They're already calling Labour the latte louts.
Well, that's right. Yeah, they're going around the edges and seeing where they can raise money. We've been here, of course, before with the famous pasty tax, which was short-lived and with George Osborne back in 2012. Yes, it was ridiculed out of existence, and you might see more similar. So there'll be pockets of taxation hitting parts of the community. What won't happen is this big increase in the income tax rate. But in terms of, you mentioned there, Rachel Reeves, her future, it is tied to tomorrow in a big way. But she told the PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party, last night this. She said, I'll show the media, that means you, me, GB News, others, I'll show the Tories, I'll not let them beat me. I'll be there on Wednesday, and I'll be there next year, and I'll be back the year after that.
It's not about
She's going nowhere, Martin.
It's not about me. It's not about you.
Well,
it's not about the Tories.
She takes it personally.
It's about the electorate. It's about the taxpayers that get out of bed at 6 in the morning to pay for this £15 billion benefits giveaway. She answers to the public, not to your
The narrative, as it looks, and we'll hear tomorrow, there'll be sluggish growth. I know that from the OBR. They will probably freeze the income tax thresholds. That's the biggest fundraiser. That means more people are dragged into those higher rates. They'll also mess around with the way that the companies put money into company pensions and these other areas too. It's going to be difficult for her to sell. And if you take a step back, taxes go up, so do benefits. How's that look? If they're raising money from working people to give to those who aren't in work, that's a hard sell. She'll have to try and stress they're going to crack down on benefit fraud and the like, to try and show it's sellable to the electorate, but it might be hard to understand.
OK, thank you very much, Chris, for that superb analysis. More of you, of course, throughout the entire show. Now, how are businesses feeling about the big day tomorrow? No doubt they're also looking through their fingers towards it. Well, let's go now to GB News' Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, who joins us. Doogie, you've been taking the temperature all day of business there in Northern Ireland. I'm assuming they think thin gruel is going to be coming their way tomorrow.
Most definitely. Looking through their fingers is a good description of it. They are still reeling from the budget last year, mainly the national insurance hike that went on, and of course the inheritance tax that went on not only farms but family businesses, that basically restricted borrowing, because 20% of your business is now owned by the taxman. When you sell that business, if you die or try to pass it on, at that point 20% of it will go into the Chancellor's pocket, and that really has affected growth in a big way right across the UK. But here in the devolved regions, Northern Ireland, government behind us, same as Scotland and Wales, they will be looking at Barnett consequentials and the whole thrum theory that really says how much they get per head, and that's the block grant. Unfortunately for us, the Northern Ireland government behind us here now, the permanent secretaries haven't been keeping their eye on the ball, and it was released over the weekend that they are currently in a 400 million at least overspend, and that's not including the 120 million that will be needed to clean up the data breach of the PSNI, if you remember, about a year ago. But it has really hit the high streets, shops, businesses, and earlier on I spoke with Glyn Roberts from Retail NI.
Well, we need a budget that supports growth, that addresses the cost of doing business crisis that we have in the UK. We've seen that the figures for growth are literally non-existent, and that bows out what we said about last year's national insurance increase. It clobbered the business community. It particularly clobbered our small independent retailers and, I think stunted growth on the high street.
Well, we have also got the added problems in Northern Ireland of the framework document that has really seen business being interrupted by trade across the Irish Sea from the rest of the UK, that deal that was put in place after Brexit by Rishi Sunak. So there is 16 million being set aside, 16.6 million, but that's not going directly to companies. That's going to 3 different companies to advise traders how they can trade with Northern Ireland pretty much in a paper-free way.
Predicted. The Windsor framework being a Windsor knot tying us to Brussels, regulating as in strangulation of red tape, making it harder for people in Northern Ireland to do business. You said all of this, you were right. It's a shame that nobody in power listened all along. Dougie Beattie, always an absolute pleasure to have you on the show there, live from Northern Ireland. Thank you very much. See you later in the show. Now, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll by scanning the QR code now on your screen. Today, we're asking who should Rachel Reeves prioritise in the budget? Clue, it's not the jobless. Should it be pensioners or workers? Well, so far, it's almost like a bit of a Brexit. It's 49% have said pensioners and 51% have said workers. In fact, it's closer than pensioners. Keep going, we're the best of 3, just like the Keir Starmer ones. Well, we went out to get your views directly early on today, and here's what the good people of Fareham had to tell us at GB News.
Difficult question. Workers, but we need to get workers moving because we haven't got anyone working. They're all on benefits. That's the problem.
I'm a pensioner, but I think the workers deserve pay rises.
Pensioners, 100%.
And why do you think that?
Because pensioners have worked all their life, they've paid all their money and they're on stupid amount of money and everybody's on the breadline with being on a pension.
She's got a point. We need people like that in control of the country. Paid in their stamp all their lives, now being milked dry in retirement. Meanwhile, 15 billion quid given to the work shy tomorrow. What a country. Loads more still to come between now and 4 p.m, including they came first for our pasties, next for our fizzy drinks. And now the government has announced that they will tax milkshakes and lattes. They're the latte lows. That's next on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray,
Are you a human trafficker?
boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:26. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News on Budget Eve. Now, Father Ted creator Graham Linehan has been cleared of harassing a transgender activist on social media. Is this a victory at long last for free speech and common sense? Well, our next guest is going to tell us, and that's the External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw. Connie, the Free Speech Union, of course, famously representing Mr. Linehan at court. You must be delighted that at long last there's been a breakthrough. Common sense has been restored.
Yes, absolutely. The judge said that even though his comments were insulting and even unnecessary, they did not constitute harassment, which is a great victory for free speech because, of course, the right to freedom of speech is pointless if that right does not include the ability to be offensive. However, Graham has been convicted of criminal damage, and this all relates back to the Battle of Ideas Festival last year in October, when Sophia Brooks, the complainant, was pursuing Graham, following him around, putting his camera right up in Graham's face to the extent that Graham felt the need to smack the camera out of Sophia Brooks's hand, and that is what the judge has found Graham guilty of on this criminal damage conviction. Now, the Free Speech Union will be appealing this conviction to the Crown Court because we believe that it sets a dangerous precedent that trans activists can use heckler's veto to shut down debate and wind up their critics to the point where they can then claim that they were harassed and get them convicted. And of course, this isn't the first time that the state has taken the side of the trans activist. This happened when Graham was actually on the way back from the US to attend this very trial when he was arrested by 5 armed police officers. It's a pattern now that the CPS seems to take the side of the trans activist, but the judge has overruled the CPS's arguments that his comments were unacceptable and he has won against these allegations of harassment.
And Connie Shaw, the quite frankly astonishing scenes of 5 coppers with machine guns arresting somebody over a bunch of tweets that weren't even posted on British soil, I think has been a breakthrough for the wider public looking on. And moreover, moving into the broader issue of free speech, it should be legal to be offensive. It's not everyone's cup of tea to be harassing people or having a go at people for their views around trans issues. It's not particularly everyone's cup of tea to be setting fire to a copy of the Quran. But the point is, we just about still live in a country where these things might be offensive, but they're not illegal.
I should just clarify, Martin, that this victory today is entirely separate to the arrest of Graham at Heathrow in September. This case today relates to events that happened last year in October at the Battle of Ideas Festival. It was actually Graham on his way back to the UK to attend the trial for this case where he was arrested again for the tweets as part of the separate case. So just for listeners, this is an entirely separate case, but it is confusing. But you're absolutely right. We do have the right to be offensive. It's very clear in the ECHR that Article 10 rights to freedom of speech explicitly protect the rights to be offensive as well, and the judge has got this correct. But in other cases, like you referenced there with Hamid Koskin, the CPS is trying to overturn our appeal that he eventually was acquitted. The CPS is now trying to overturn that not guilty judgment. And so, again, it seems the state is trying to clamp down on free speech with the argument in Hamid Koskin's case that the fact that he was attacked by an Islamist when he was burning a copy of the Quran, that is evidence that he did cause alarm, harassment and distress. But this today is an excellent win for free speech, and the Free Speech Union will be supporting Graham all the way to overturn that conviction of criminal damage, because it does set a dangerous precedent, which we also saw almost come to a head in Scotland when Susan Smith was accused by another trans activist who was trying to shut down debate. She was accused of criminal damage to his umbrella, and Police Scotland told her that if she did not accept an official recorded warning that she would be facing charges, those potential charges have now been dropped after we intervened. So this has been done before. Trans activists have attempted to do this before, but that's why we want to overturn this conviction of criminal damage, because of that dangerous precedent that allows militant activists to use heckler's veto to shut down people's lawful expression and debate.
You know, Connie Shaw, I wonder if in the future we'll look back on these times as like a collective miasma, a madness, where suddenly police became more obsessed with tweets and not with policing the streets. Or is actually just the tip of the iceberg. Might things get worse? But Connie Shaw, for now, you're battling on a victory for Graham Linehan. Free Speech Union there, External Affairs Officer Connie Shaw, thank you as ever for your time joining us today on GB News. Now, we did speak with Mr Linehan earlier on at the courts. Here's what he had to tell GB News.
I'm very pleased by today's verdict. The judge found me and the women who gave evidence on my behalf to be credible, honest witnesses and said that my actions were not criminal and did not constitute harassment. The judge commented that the complainant, a well-known trans activist, was not truthful. There are a group of dangerous men who are determined to bully women and girls and to misuse the courts and police in furtherance of a misogynistic agenda. I'm proud to have stood up to them and I will continue to do so. I'm grateful to the Free Speech Union for their unwavering support and for helping to ensure that those who speak out against these dangerous activists are protected.
There we go, victory for Graham Linehan. Now, moving on, this Christmas we're putting on a really exciting and special event at GB News, and we want lots of you to be there too, because on Saturday the 13th of December, you're invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. It looks magnificent. For your chance to be there with us. You can apply for tickets by scanning the QR code on your screen right now or by going to gbnews.com/carols. Now, the concert will be recorded and broadcast on GB News on Christmas Eve. Come on, have a glass of eggnog. Come and join us for a good old sing-song. Well, there's more still to come between now and 4 p.m, including first they came for our pasties, then they came for our holidays, and now the government has announced it will tax milkshakes, and that's right, coffees, of the Labour Party, the latte louts. This is GB News. But first, there's your news headlines, and here's Sam Francis. I want to keep using that latte louts joke.
Martin, very good afternoon to you. Just after 3:30, Sir Keir Starmer has said in the last few moments that ceasefire talks are moving in a positive direction. Telling leaders of the Coalition of the Willing on a call today, he's been briefed on encouraging process. A senior Kyiv official says Ukraine backs the essence of a US brokered deal, but the most sensitive points still need to be settled directly between the Ukrainian and US presidents. Zelensky could travel to the US within days to try to finalise an agreement. Graham Linehan, the creator of Father Ted, has been cleared of harassment but found guilty of criminal damage for knocking a trans activist's phone to the ground and throwing it into the road. The judge ruled his online post didn't meet the legal threshold for harassment. Linehan says he acted on reflex and claims he's been targeted for his views on gender identity. Ahead of tomorrow's budget, the Chancellor is expected to double down on slashing NHS waiting times. Rachel Reeves will confirm funding for hundreds of new neighbourhood health centres, bringing medical care closer to people's doorsteps. And the government will also give mayors in England powers to introduce a visitor levy, adding a charge to overnight hotel stays, B&Bs and holiday lets. Ministers say it will be up to local leaders whether to impose it. And French police have arrested 4 more suspects over last month's spectacular Louvre jewel heist. 2 men and 2 women were detained this week, joining 4 others already under investigation. But officials admit there's still no trace of the $100 million haul. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with a full roundup at 4.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day out there, and even where we've got some showers, they'll tend to ease during the rest of the day. Fine and sunny as we end the afternoon, but with clear skies overnight, it's certainly going to be a frosty one. A ridge of high pressure across the UK, low pressure moving away, so showers tending to ease, but a few continuing into the evening across parts of eastern England, a few more into western Scotland. Otherwise, for many, it is a clear start to the night, and as a result, temperatures will fall away. A widespread frost forming by dawn. We're looking at typical numbers inland and in urban areas of -1 Celsius, but in the countryside -2 to -6 degrees. Not so frosty to the west Here we've got cloud and some outbreaks of rain into the north and west of Scotland. That rain turning heavier for a time during the morning, clouding over also across central Scotland, but still some sunshine to be had in the east. Northern Ireland also turning cloudy with outbreaks of rain, increasingly heavy and persistent through the morning. Wales in the southwest, a bright start, but increasing cloud from the west, whilst the Midlands, the east and the south and southeast of England see the lion's share of sunny skies, albeit with a chill first thing. We keep the sunshine across the southeastern quadrant into the afternoon, but elsewhere across the United Kingdom we've got thicker cloud moving in, a freshening breeze and outbreaks of rain into the north and the west. That will lift temperatures double figures towards the west and southwest. A colder feel in the east, but at least we keep the sunshine until the sun goes down in the far southeast. That's when these outbreaks of rain finally move through. They clear on Thursday, but it stays dull and damp in places, albeit with much higher temperatures compared with recent days.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation, because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Motorists should expect disruptions. In North Yorkshire, a breakdown on the A19 northbound entry slip from the A170 has closed one lane. In Nottinghamshire, a breakdown on the M1 southbound between junctions 28 and 27 has closed a lane. In Sandwell District, a collision on the M5 slip road to the M6 northbound causes 10-minute delays. Kent's M20 westbound entry slip at junction 9 is closed after an incident. And on the trains, expect major disruption between Stevenage and London King's Cross on Grand Central and Great Northern services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 3:38. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on Budget Eve on GB News. Now, lovers of milkshakes and lattes are bracing themselves for tax hikes as Labour extends its so-called sugar tax. Now, it's billed as part of a crackdown on obesity, and they hope to raise as much as £100 million a year for the Treasury. But is this proof we're living in a nanny state? They're taxing everything that moves, and certainly everything that seems to be fun. Let's now speak to the Executive Director of the Obesity Health Alliance, and that's Catherine Jenner. Catherine, welcome to the show. My first question is very straightforward. Do these taxes work? Because the last time around, as I recall, the fizzy pop manufacturers simply changed their recipes to avoid paying any tax. Does it have any impact on people's waistlines?
That is exactly what we want to happen. So it is a health policy. So we're trying to encourage the manufacturers that fill our drinks and foods with sugars to reformulate to put less sugar in them. So far we have a soft drinks industry levy. So the industry is encouraged to put less sugar in their drinks. And yes, it has had an effect. So it's been going since 2018. And we've seen sugar content of soft drinks halving, whilst actually sales have still continued quite well, by the way. People are just buying lower sugar drinks. And we've seen a number of about 5,000 cases of obesity avoided in older girls in all socioeconomic groups, and also really interestingly about 5,000 cases of children having their teeth pulled out due to dental caries in the same period as well. So it's been shown to be effective. So we're just trying to expand it, or the government are trying to expand it to just bring in other drinks that might have as much sugar as a cola or another fizzy drink, just to have a level playing field between the different drinks.
But I guess my point is, if manufacturers simply adapt and change their recipes, it won't raise any tax anyway.
That's right. It has raised a little bit of money. So the existing tax has raised over £2 billion. So it's raising about £300 million every year. That was initially put aside to do things like the school breakfast clubs and the school pupil premium, it's called as well. But actually, it's not really there for revenue raising. It's there for cost saving. Obesity, things like having teeth pulled out, having cases of type 2 diabetes and various cancers are very expensive. So what the Treasury wants to do is to avoid having to pay for those huge medical costs as well. And it's estimating that it's going to save about £1 billion in the long term, including about 36 million savings into the NHS.
But there's also a raft of evidence that shows this disproportionately impacts the working classes, the poorest, more because they buy cheap pop. And you know, if you're well educated, you're middle class, you might go for something else, is there not a case that this is actually a tax on the poor?
Well, this is a tax that's designed to avoid that from happening. So this is taxing drinks that people were buying. So you can still continue to buy what you want, but there is a lower sugar, lower cost option available always for all of these drinks as well. So what we've seen is this has had an impact across all socioeconomic groups. And as you say, they were buying more of these drinks. They're also more disproportionately targeted with unhealthy food advertising, have more fast food outlets where they live as well. So really surrounded by unhealthy food. But in this case, when it comes to the soft drinks levy, they've been buying less and consuming less sugar. So we're seeing an impact. And those figures I stated on childhood obesity are particularly pronounced, as in there's been more prevented cases in those from socioeconomic groups. So it's meant to be a really good thing. It's helping people's health in the long term, giving them a longer chance of living a healthy life, which is what we want for everybody.
What do you say, Catherine Jenner, to those who say that this is a nanny state, if you like, on high-octane steroids? The Labour Party taxing milkshakes, lattes, pop, booze, cigs, champagne, even holidays, everything that's fun. This is such a fun police mindset. And at the moment, people are having such a miserable time, maybe they'll enjoy a sweet cup of tea or coffee or pop.
Well, I can't speak to all of those things, obviously, but when it comes to the sugary drinks tax, I hardly think it's nanny state gone mad when we're just asking manufacturers to take out a bit of sugar. If I was saying to take it out of your hands and put it in the bin, that might be something that's nanny state. But asking manufacturer to just reduce a bit of sugar feels a fairly proportionate thing to do.
But you admit that manufacturers, just like the wealthiest in Britain, they don't simply passively wait around and wait to be taxed. They can leave the country. And in this case, manufacturers simply put different artificial sweeteners in foods. Are we not concerned that pumping children full of artificial sweeteners carries its own set of risks?
Well, I'm a nutritionist, so I'd probably say I wouldn't want anyone drinking these drinks altogether. But in terms of evidence of harm, sugar is considered to be more harmful. And that's the thing we should be looking to reduce first, because of its impact on type 2 diabetes, various cancers, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and dental decay as well. The second thing we should be looking to do is to reduce sweeteners as well, which have been proven to be safe. But that, of course, doesn't mean that they're healthy. What happens with sugar is that you tastes adapt to sweet flavours and you start craving more of them. So if you still replace sugar with sweeteners, it doesn't give your taste buds a chance to adapt. So I don't know if you do have sugar in your tea. I used to. If you gradually reduce it, you'll find your taste buds quite quickly adapt. Within a couple of weeks, you'd find a sugary tea absolutely disgusting, but you have to go through that process. So in this case, it's about trying to gradually change without really taking away anybody's fun. All these drinks are still going to be available for purchase. They'll just hopefully have a little bit less sugar.
I've got to admit, Catherine Jenner, I do have sugar in my tea and my coffee, and I'm enjoying it now, in fact. This feels like I'm being cross-examined by the sugar police. I digress. I'm a one sugar kind of guy.
Well,
sweet enough
some of
already.
these soft drinks have got several teaspoons worth of sugar in them. So, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I wouldn't tell anyone what to do. But some of these drinks are extremely sugary. And in fact, what's left out of scope is things like the huge milkshakes that particularly teenagers are buying and those fast food outlets as well, because they don't come pre-packaged. They're out of scope of these restrictions at the moment. So there may be something else that needs to be done in the future around the portion sizes or what goes into those drinks as well. But I would hope that manufacturers will wake up to the idea that actually they can still improve their products and people can still enjoy and buy them and they can still sell them. And then we make a really nice case that public health measures don't have to be damaging to business as well. So I hope they will get on board.
OK, you made a very compelling case, and thank you for not telling me off too much about my own sugar in the tea.
I've got 2 children, so I couldn't possibly say anything.
Treat me like a kid. It's the best way to be. That's the Executive Director of the Obesity Health Alliance, Catherine Jenner. Thank you very much for your time today on GB News. Greatly appreciated. What do you make about all this? I mean, I honestly do think that we have governments now that they do treat us like children. I think that's a bit of a Freudian slip there, perhaps. We've been treated like kids on everything. Tax on holidays, tax on milkshakes, tax on pasties, tax on a trip to London, tax on everything. And all of this is paying for a £15 billion giveaway tomorrow for benefits. Is that the point? Is that the point? We're just being taxed for everything that moves, everything we eat, everything we do, and it's just stealth taxes left, right and centre. Rather than cutting the public purse, cutting benefits, cutting asylum, cutting the cost of universal credit to foreigners, it's people like you and I who just want a nice glass of pop that are being fingered. Moving on, a fashion designer has been accused of ramming woke politics down our throats by releasing a designer clothing range made of wool from gay sheep. That's right, gay sheep. But first, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, we've got some wet weather pushing through the Mediterranean this week. It should turn drier by the time we get to the weekend, however. In the Canary Islands, it's looking relatively dry, highs around 19 degrees. A little bit cooler towards Lisbon, 11 or 12 degrees. Now, here's that wet weather I mentioned. It's moving across parts of Italy, Slovenia, as well as Croatia and into Greece later on this week. But parts of Italy, as well as Croatia, should get drier by Friday or Saturday, with temperatures remaining a little below average. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
There's a lot of tables out there that won't just have turkey on it. There'll be turkey and ham, and but I know some people that will cook 3 or 4 different meats. And obviously the joy of having turkey is that you can then make a turkey curry for Boxing Day and the subsequent days. So, you know, you should be having days of curry after your turkey lunch. I think for the masses, it's still hugely popular. You know, through the festive period at the Dog, we will have hundreds of people having Christmas parties, and most of them will order our turkey lunch or dinner. And then Christmas Day, we could sell it probably 3 or 4 times. The demand for people to go out for the traditional turkey roast is still massive. But hey, look, if you don't like a roast lunch, then why force yourself to have it on the, you know, probably one of the most important meals of the day in terms of bringing family together.
What about Sophie's point, Mark, about cost and spending £30, £40 on turkey? That is simply too expensive for lots of people.
Yeah, I'll never be able to defend or debate that. You know, I know more than anyone the challenges around food inflation, and a good turkey has become a huge cost. But I still think where people can afford the tradition, the joy of coming together, sharing a big turkey roast meal it's a brilliant Christmas tradition. But yeah, the food inflation, that's something we've talked about a number of times, isn't it? You know, it's crippling our business and it's crippling people at homes. I suppose the key thing to look at is if you know what you're doing with it, a good turkey will feed the family for many days. It's not just one meal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there
with expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day all day tomorrow.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. It's approaching 10 to 4. You've me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the world of gay sheep, that's correct, gay sheep, has appeared at a New York fashion show as part of a designer Michael Schmidt's new line, and it's called I Will Survive. Get it? It's a take on the gay anthem, I Will Survive. I will survive. Now, Mr. Schmidt launched the fashion line after he learnt that working farms often killed rams that refused to mate with their female counterparts. Well, let's now speak with the sheep farmer, Gareth Wynne Jones. Gareth. What? Oh, I seem to have a gay sheep behind me, Gareth. Gareth, that's thrown me a bit there. Let's start with the obvious question, Gareth. I never thought I'd ask this, can sheep be gay?
Well, some sheep aren't interested in other
different sexes. So yeah, they can be, to be honest with you. We call them a guru vanu, means a male, female. But yeah, there is rams that are not interested in females. But the truth is, if this isn't very sustainable. I'm wearing my little woolen jumper here, but think about it, man. It's not going to be sustainable for the long run if they're not going to be breeding. It'll be a short-term business, I would say.
So this designer, Michael Schmidt, said that he heard that the gay rams were being basically destroyed. They were being put down. So he got a herd of gay sheep, and he started taking their wool off them. And if we see any of his outfits, he's making, well, probably not the kind of thing you'd be wearing down on the farm, should I put it that way. Gareth Wyn-Jones, little midriff sailor's outfits. Not the kind of thing you're probably wearing as a working farmer there, Gal.
No, sorry, I'm just giggling that we've got a gay flock of sheep somewhere in the world that so somebody's making a living off. It's good advertisement for all, I suppose, but like I say, I'm not sure how sustainable it is for the future, unless he's got a good way of getting these gay rams onto his flock and onto the farm. It's something that I sure think is a very, very minute part of our industry. A very small number of rams won't want to have a little bit of good time with them things in the field there.
Yeah, I mean, think about what they're missing, Gareth. They could leap into that field there and they could fill their boots as much as they like. Instead, they're destined to becoming gay wool. But I did some research on this. Apparently, 8% of rams, if you like, do bat for their own team. Up to 30% of sheep can be bisexual. Is that barsexual?
To be honest with you, I am definitely not sure about that one, mate. But that is some really good statistics.
Do you know what? I'm going to leave it there because I'm as thrown by this story as you are. But it's good to see you in the field there with a bunch of sheep that presumably aren't gay. Gareth Wyn-Jones.
The wife's dragging me away. We're on our way home from the Royal Welsh Winter Show. So thanks very much for the time and keep up the good work. And we will see you on the other side. Living the dream.
Gareth Wyn-Jones, what a great way to leave it there. His wife is just like, what are you talking about gay sheep for to GBNews? Just like dragging him down the country lane to go and do something a bit more sensible. Look, all of human life is here. And apparently this designer, it's a sold-out collection. Probably comes as no surprise. He's previously sold his work to Madonna and Cher. So it is a real thing. There are real outfits made of gay wool. I've been trying to get that story on the show for 2 days. It's true. There are gay sheep. There's gay wool. It exists. Try it if you fancy. Now, coming up next, it's less than 24 hours to go to the most widely feared budget in modern history. Businesses, farmers, taxpayers, workers, pensioners bracing themselves. But meanwhile, the £15 billion benefits bonanza all paid for by British taxpayers. That's next on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day out there, and even where we've got some showers, they'll tend to ease during the rest of the day. Fine and sunny as we end the afternoon, but with clear skies overnight, it's certainly going to be a frosty one. A ridge of high pressure across the UK, low pressure moving away, so showers tending to ease, but a few continuing into the evening across parts of eastern England, a few more into western Scotland. Otherwise, for many, it is a clear start to the night, and as a result, temperatures will fall away. A widespread frost forming by dawn. We're looking at typical numbers inland and in urban areas of -1 Celsius, but in the countryside -2 to -6 degrees. Not so frosty to the west. Here we've got cloud and some outbreaks of rain into the north and west of Scotland. That rain turning heavier for a time during the morning, clouding over also across central Scotland, but still some sunshine to be had in the east. Northern Ireland, also turning cloudy with outbreaks of rain, increasingly heavy and persistent through the morning. Wales in the southwest, a bright start, but increasing cloud from the west, whilst the Midlands, the east and the south and southeast of England see the lion's share of sunny skies, albeit with a chill first thing. We keep the sunshine across the southeastern quadrant into the afternoon, but elsewhere across the United Kingdom we've got thicker cloud moving in, a freshening breeze and outbreaks of rain into the north and the west. That will lift temperatures double figures towards the west and southwest. A colder feel in the east, but at least we keep the sunshine until the sun goes down in the far southeast. That's when these outbreaks of rain finally move through. They clear on Thursday, but it stays dull and damp in places, albeit with much higher temperatures compared with recent days.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In Derbyshire, drivers travelling southbound on the A38 between the A50 and junction with the A5132 are experiencing significant congestion, estimated to cause delays of approximately 20 minutes. Meanwhile, in Hertfordshire, a road traffic collision on the A1M southbound at junction 7 is leading to delays of up to 30 minutes. In Kent, the westbound entry slip of the M20 at junction 9 remains closed due to a collision. Rail users should also be aware that Grand Central and Great Northern services are severely disrupted between Stevenage and London King's Cross, potentially affecting travel plans. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News on Budget Eve. And we're broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. Here's what's coming up on today's action-packed show. Breaking news in this past hour, Keir Starmer is meeting with the coalition of the willing as US media reports that Kyiv has agreed to a peace deal brokered by Donald J. Trump. And we'll bring you all the very latest updates throughout the show. And with less than 24 hours to go until that budget, the most widely feared budget in modern history, a damning poll has shown that Rachel Reeves is, quote, in the last chance saloon and is losing the room. But with the Chancellor claiming that any criticism of her and her plan is misogyny, is Labour not just losing the room, they're losing the plot? Meanwhile, the National Crime Agency has launched a rural crime crackdown after it's emerged that gangs of East European criminals are hoping to fleece British farmers of 44 million quid's worth of kit every single year. But I'll be speaking to a farmer on today's show who blasts British farming's biggest thief is Rachel Reeves. And the government is axing premium brands from its Under Fire Motability scheme after analysis found an astonishing 85% of all claimants make additional payments to get luxury motors, such as BMWs, Mercedes and Audis. Now, with the scheme costing £321 million last year, is it time to scrap the whole thing altogether? And Crufts has been accused of going doggy wokery after a decision to allow mongrels to enter for the first time in its 150-year history. Now, with Crufts claiming their move is, of course, in the name of canine inclusivity, are they simply barking up the wrong tree? Welcome to the show. Are you bracing yourself for impact on tomorrow's budget? Pain is expected left, right and centre for pensioners, for savers, even 9 million British workers being dragged into higher tax thresholds, all in the name of a £15 billion benefits bonanza. You sometimes feel that you're going to work in the morning, or you've paid your stamp all of your life to support those with no interest in going to work, or those coming to our country illegally, or those born overseas creaming off benefits. Do you sometimes feel like a guest I have on the show later on, a former copper who's now a builder, who's saying, what's the point in going to work? He gets up in the morning at 6 o'clock. He's on site at 7:30. He said he works in areas where nobody even gets up before 11 a.m. and they shuffle around in onesies as their children play in gardens as he is paying for their benefits. What a country. Get in touch. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now it's time for your headlines. And here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon to you. Just after 4 o'clock. Well, major movement this afternoon on Ukraine peace negotiations, with Sir Keir Starmer saying weekend talks between the US and Ukraine in Geneva have moved in a positive direction, with the draft peace framework now largely acceptable to President Zelensky. Chairing a call with allies in the so-called Coalition of the Willing, the Prime Minister said Ukraine has proposed constructive changes and urged leaders to firm up commitments to a future multinational peacekeeping force. Sir Keir also confirmed the UK will send more air defence missiles in the coming weeks and called for a full embargo on Russian energy to keep pressure up on Moscow. In other news this hour, Graham Linehan has been cleared of harassment but found guilty of criminal damage over an incident involving a trans activist's phone. The court heard he deliberately whacked Sophia Brooks' phone from her hand outside a conference last October before throwing it into the road. Today, the judge ruled his online posts did not meet the threshold for harassment, but the damage to the phone did. Linehan, who denied both charges, spoke outside court earlier, saying he acted on reflex and argued he has been targeted for his views on gender identity.
I'm very pleased by today's verdict. The judge found me and the women who gave evidence on my behalf to be credible, honest witnesses and said that my actions were not criminal and did not constitute harassment. The judge commented that the complainant, a well-known trans activist, was not truthful. There are a group of dangerous men who are determined to bully women and girls and to misuse the courts and police in furtherance of a misogynistic agenda. I'm proud to have stood up to them and I will continue to do so. I'm grateful to the Free Speech Union for their unwavering support and for helping to ensure that those who speak out against these dangerous activists are protected.
Rachel Reeves says she'll still be Chancellor in 2 years' time, hitting back at what she calls misogyny in public life and insisting she won't be driven off course. She's also warning Labour MPs that tomorrow's £30 billion tax-raising budget must be backed as a single package. Speaking to the Parliamentary Labour Party, she said recent leaks were incredibly destabilising, urging her colleagues to close ranks. Rachel Reeves says unity and discipline are now essential if the government wants to earn a second term. Well, Shadow Levelling Up Secretary James Cleverly has been giving his reaction to the comments.
I don't think it's legitimate to criticise person for basically their chromosomes. So I'm critical of her because she was completely dishonest in the lead up to the general election about their tax plans, that she has ramped up taxes, she is killing jobs, this constant briefing, U-turning, re-briefing, re-U-turning is crushing confidence in the British economy just at the time when we need it to be most active. These are the things she should be criticised for, not because she's a woman.
Staying with the budget, the government says local mayors in England will soon be given new powers to introduce a visitor levy, a charge on overnight stays in hotels, B&Bs and holiday lets. It's part of plans being set out in tomorrow's budget, with ministers saying the decision whether to impose the tax will rest entirely with mayors and local leaders. If introduced, it would add a small fee to tourists' accommodation bills, similar to city taxes already used across Europe. Well, news just into us more than 55 years now since Muriel McKay was kidnapped and murdered. Her family has been denied by a High Court judge permission to scan a back garden in East London, where they say they believe her remains may be buried. That judge in the High Court rejecting their request, saying the evidence was thin and that the scan of the garden wouldn't produce any inconvertible results. He also criticised what he called egregious conduct by some family members towards the homeowner of that garden, saying that some family members had alleged deception and harassment. Muriel McKay was abducted back in 1969 after being mistaken for Rupert Murdoch's wife in what was one of the UK's first murder convictions secured without a body being found. Turning to news also in London, a major incident's been declared in the west of the city, where we can see 150 firefighters still battling a large blaze at a warehouse in Southall. Crews were called to the two-storey building this morning after residents reported hearing huge explosions. The London Fire Brigade says a warehouse and retail unit are still alight, and they're also urging local residents to keep windows and doors shut because of thick smoke. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Next, though, a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
8 minutes past 4, the markets for you. The pound will buy you $1.3138 and €1.1387. The price of gold is £3,145, 43 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,534 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sam. I've got some breaking news for you now, and it's this. Sir Keir Starmer has held talks with Ukraine's European allies, the so-called coalition of the willing. Let's take a little listen.
From another barrage last night, with more civilian homes in ruins and more innocent lives lost. Another repulsive act, another reminder for all of us, if we needed it, as to why we must come together. Because what we all want to see, and these are the guiding principles, particularly in recent days, is a permanent end to Russia's barbarity in Ukraine and a just and lasting peace. And as all colleagues on the Coalition Willing know, both of those words, just and lasting, are hugely important. But they propose some constructive changes, and of course some of our national security advisors were there in Geneva to support the talks. So I do think we're moving in a positive direction, and indications today that in large part the majority of the text looks as though Vladimir is indicating can be accepted.
And that was Keir Starmer there talking to European allies, the so-called coalition of the willing. Apologies for that camera work there. It left you feeling, as I do, slightly seasick. Now, moving on, the Chancellor Rachel Reeves has accused her many critics of misogyny and called on nervous Labour MPs to unite behind her ahead of tomorrow's hugely anticipated budget. Now, also in her defiance message, she insisted that she'll be the Chancellor in 2 years' time. as businesses across the country brace themselves for incoming tax rises. But is this her last chance to win voters over? Well, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political editor, Chris Hope. Chris, welcome back to the studio. Earlier on, I ran through a poll, More in Common, pulled out today, and we have some of the graphics we can show there. Rachel Reeves is losing the room with voters. She's in the last chance saloon, this poll concluded. Her popularity is at an all-time low. She's at minus 52 points. That's even lower than Sir Keir Starmer at minus 51. But here's the really brutal reality, Chris. 50% of the British public are unsure of whether the cost of living crisis will ever end. 68% believe public services are in a terrible state, and 73% think the same about the government's finances. And these figures are all worse than before the previous budget. Her popularity is going downhill faster than the Jamaican bobsleigh team. The point is, can she pull anything out of the fire tomorrow to try and salvage hers and this government's reputation?
Well, the Chancellor thinks that maybe 95% of what's going to happen tomorrow, Labour MPs will approve of. We're told it will be a Labour budget. They'll go back to basics, try and deliver for Labour values. That means lifting the two-child benefit gap, uprating universal credit in line with inflation, not going ahead with £5 billion worth of welfare cuts they tried to do back in July, and also reversing, of course, on the winter fuel allowance. That's costing in total around over £15 billion, according to calculations by the Tory party. The Lib Dems say the concomitant result of that is increasing taxes. More people drawn into the basic rate and then the higher rate of income tax.
9 million people paying more tax.
That's right, and these are people who shouldn't be paying it historically. You know, well-paid nurses, middle-ranking nurses, they shouldn't be on the higher rate, but they might well be because of the nature of wages going up and those thresholds not moving. That's how she'll do it. But also around the edges, we're seeing evidence being confirmed now of what else they'll do. There's going to be a milkshake tax. They're going to cut the amount of sugar in milkshakes. That means that comes in 2028. That's meant to allow companies to reconfigure their sweet drinks to ally and not have to increase the cost of those drinks.
But it won't bring any tax revenue. They simply change the formula.
Well, that should deal, or they say it will deal with the issue of obesity. So the more you don't really believe that. You're looking a bit surprised about that. But that it's meant to tackle obesity by doing it.
I've got a pair of eyes. I travel on public transport. I've never seen more fat people in my entire life. And we already got a sugar tax.
Yes, it has raised money, but the idea is it will mean people consume less sugar, is the hope, and that'll ease pressure on the NHS. The other one breaking this hour is an idea for a tourist tax, a tax on holidays, charging £2 a night to stay in hotels. Westminster Council has come out in favour. Others are less keen. Rocco Forte, who's the hotelier, he's reportedly been very unhappy about this. A tax on holidays, he's branded it. The defence, which is breaking just now from my colleague Catherine Forster, who's been with the PM's official spokesman on milkshakes. They say we have the third highest obesity rate in Europe. That's a direct effect on the NHS and the economy. And they want to drive this policy will drive reformulation of products to help get people eating more healthily. And on the tourist tax, the government says this: there's 130 million overnight visits a year. Local leaders will be able to put on a modest charge to help improve those areas. So perhaps in London, Westminster, it will apply, but not elsewhere in the country.
So Sadiq Khan could raise, of course, Sadiq Khan is in favour, the Mayor of London, £2 a night on a hotel room or an Airbnb, a blanket tax could raise £178 million a year. But look, Chris, I'll put it to you. £2 extra to stay in London or any other town for the weekend. More tax on milkshakes, on your lattes, on your fizzy pop. No cheer for boozers either. Wine, 15 pence a bottle. Spirits, 47p. A 4-pack of lager, 7p. Fizz, 13p. All of the fun is being taxed out of existence by this government.
They haven't been confirmed. None of those have been confirmed yet, those increases on the drink, the so-called sin taxes. We'll see how that plays out. Also, speculation that they may go ahead with this fuel duty freeze. Now, there was speculation with a 150,000 petition handed in earlier by Lord McKinley, Lewis Cocking, and also Howard Cox from Fairfield UK. Speculation that might go up, but the Times reporting now that will be frozen again in a budget and then, of course, apply from April.
OK, Chris, so thank you very much for your expert analysis. Now, how are businesses feeling about the big day tomorrow? Well, GB News' Northern Ireland reporter Dougie Beattie joins us now live from Stormont. Dougie Beattie, we spoke before. Business has already been through the mill, the national insurance hike last time. Are they bracing themselves for yet more pain tomorrow?
Well, they most definitely are, and the confidence is running out of business right across the UK. In fact, the inheritance tax that they put in farmers last year, you talk about healthy eating, well, to eat healthily you need to eat fresh food, and of course that affects the borrowing capability of any farm and any small business. Let's not forget that inheritance tax last year was also on small family businesses, so you know, to hand a business over, it means that 20% of it has basically gone to the tax man, and that was a massive hit on businesses right across the UK. Here in Northern Ireland, we have found out over the weekend that behind us, the devolved institutions, out of their block grant from last year, they're apparently up to and maybe over 400 million overspend, and that's not including the 120 million to deal with the PSNI data breach. But I spent the weekend out and about with some businesses, and here's Glenn Roberts of Retail NI on what he wants to see in this budget.
Well, we need a budget that supports growth, that addresses the cost of doing business crisis that we have in the UK. We've seen that the figures for growth are literally non-existent, and that bows out what we said about last year's national insurance increase. It clobbered the business community. It particularly clobbered our small independent retailers, and, you know, I think stunted growth on the high street.
Well, there is an extra 16 million, we know, coming to Northern Ireland to deal with the framework document, that post-Brexit trade deal that really stopped trade between the rest of the UK and Northern Ireland. Very much this money is going towards 3 companies to help businesses with the paperwork that exists there and try and encourage trade back across the Irish Sea again. But everyone here is basically holding their breath and waiting for what comes next.
I think a lot of people are assuming the same brace position. Dougie, thank you as ever for joining us on GB News. Always a pleasure, my old friend. Thank you. Now, a hugely fascinating angle which is emerging before tomorrow's budget is the notion that the Chancellor has hit out at her opponents as misogynists for daring to criticise her. Does she have a point, or does she need to grow a pair? Well, let's have that debate now. We're joined by the political commentator Aishi Alakhan and also the journalist Linda Daubney. Aisha, let's start with you. Why is it that you're not allowed to criticise a woman for being incompetent if you think they are, or if you're not allowed to criticise them for their decisions? Why is it they always go to the fainting couch and plead misogyny?
Hi, Martin. That's not what's happened here. If you actually look at the build-up to this budget, it's been absolutely brutal. There's been so many negative headlines, and it's not just obviously the build-up. We're talking, if you cast your mind back to the summer when there were images of Rachel Reeves crying, flashed all over the world, you know, that's the sort of language and attitudes that Rachel Reeves is pointing out, that none of her predecessors and none of the chancellors that I can remember have ever faced this level
was
of
annihilated.
scrutiny.
He was crucified by the media. He was obliterated. Kwasi Kwarteng was obliterated by the media as Chancellor. Now, what's he got to do with his sex?
Well, you'll notice that, or you'll remember, sorry, that in the lead up to the budget, before all of his ridiculous policies and his and Liz Truss's ridiculous policies were announced, there wasn't this level of, it was almost like a feeding frenzy. And if you actually go back and look at George Osborne, for example, I remember that very clearly, announcing austerity, announcing, you know, how to balance the books and so on. And his measures absolutely gutted a lot of the money. The policies were appalling, and actually admitted after the 2015 election the winning the election, that we did it and we actually targeted the vulnerable, the people that were already struggling, people that were already poor. And this is something that, I mean, look, I've been following Rachel Reeves. I know her, I've met her, and nobody's actually giving her a real chance. We should actually wait till tomorrow. We only have one day left. Let's see what she has in store, and let's see, and then we should dissect her policies and not comment on her looks.
I need to bring Linda Daubney in. Linda, what would Margaret Thatcher make of all this? And let's not forget, Liz Truss was compared to a lettuce. She was annihilated too. I put it to you, this is selective outrage from the left, as usual.
It's totally, totally ridiculous. Frankly, she is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, not flipping burgers in a burger bar. She has to knuckle down. If she can't stand the heat, she should get out of the kitchen, just to stick with the same metaphor. Actually, I find it infuriating that this annoys me on two levels. First of all, there's the whole dishonesty about the budget. I'm right with James Cleverly on that one. And secondly, I think it's just... It's partly narcissistic behaviour when earlier in the day, I won't let them beat me, turning it into some kind of crusade about her. Frankly, 20, 30 years ago, I started as a young journalist in Fleet Street when Fleet Street was physically in Fleet Street. Now, that was a very, very tough environment. I've got to the finals as a political candidate in the selection process. That too is difficult. And when Rachel Reeves says to me or to the viewer and to everyone else, well, everyone can have a meltdown. It's just that I have to have mine on television. Let me know. I've actually lost family members in the middle of a news bulletin at Sky News, and I keep going. And actually, I simply do not believe, not for 1 second, that personal problems cause that breakdown in the House of Commons. You simply have to learn to put a brave face on it and keep going. Battle on. That's what my mother would say to me. Battle on.
Aisha, that's the point. This isn't misogyny, it's snowflakery.
No, it isn't. And for somebody who's actually been through that level of scrutiny and just that level of to pull your socks up, where's your empathy? And also Rachel Reeves, she's actually inherited this huge black hole. There's so much riding on this. Of course, there's going to be things that people don't agree with, but to criticize her appearance, to complain and to say that she's failing the country just because she showed emotion, to actually now say, well, she's incompetent, and look at the comments that people have made online, things like, oh, Rachel from accounts. That's a very demeaning way to describe a woman, the first female chancellor we've seen in this country, and it's actually it's putting a lot of people off, young women from going into politics, because that's a level of misogyny and attacks that a woman is facing. What's it going to be like for them? Sorry, I missed that.
I don't think anyone has criticised appearance.
There's been headlines in the Daily Mail saying she looks terrible. There's been commentary by Dan Hodges.
She looks worn out. That's true. She does look worn out because she's letting everything show on her face. She has to learn. This is a tough, tough world, and she is in a tough, tough game. And at the moment, she is losing. And actually, she's losing it. And she needs to get on top of her game, and she needs to sound convincing. Otherwise, the viewer won't believe her, the voter won't believe her, and most importantly, maybe the financial markets won't believe her. She needs to get on top of her game.
That is the most important thing.
I haven't finished. At the moment, she is failing in that regard. She just needs to toughen up.
Have you finished? Because...
Go on then, a quick word, Aisha. I don't want to stand in the way of this one, or I get a slap.
Rachel has actually mentioned the misogyny from both sides. So she's not just saying that I'm only getting it from the Conservatives. She's actually mentioning that she's getting it from our side as well. So this isn't just her having a go at her opponents. She's actually saying it across the board. And I completely believe that she will have definitely faced people making comments about her ability as a chancellor, her looks and so on. So I think we should actually wait till tomorrow. That's my message to everybody. Let's see what is actually in store with the budget, and then start dissecting and analysing her policies.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Thank both of you, Linda Daubney and Aisha Ali Khan. Both perspectives there. A nice, firm and fair debate. Thank you. That was excellent. Thanks for your company. And moving on, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll by scanning the QR code now on your screen. And today we're asking, who should Rachel Reeves prioritise in the budget, pensioners all workers, definitely not the jobless. Wow, look at this. It's neck and neck. So far, 50% have said pensioners and 50% have said workers. Pensioners roaring up the inside and almost taking the lead. It's been workers ahead all day long. Still time to vote. You want to have your say. It's neck and neck. This is tighter than Brexit. You know what to do. Scan that QR code and get stuck in. Now, still to come, whistleblowers warn that a new trial of puberty blockers risks repeating the Tavistock Clinic's failures. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News and with Britain's #1 news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:29. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the medics who blew the whistle on a hugely controversial gender clinic, well, they warned that new trials of puberty blocker risks repeating the Tavistock Clinic's failures. Now, in a letter to the Health Secretary, the former employees at the Tavistock and the Portman NHS Trust, they called for the immediate halt of this new trial. Well, let's now speak with the lawyer who's representing claimants calling for an immediate halt to this trial, and that's Paul Conraith. Paul, welcome to the show. I'm staggered that we're even having this conversation. I believe, and I think many people out there also believe, that when the Tavistock whistleblowers came out, this kind of practice would be coming to an end.
It really is very hard to believe that this is going ahead. When you read the trial protocol, that children are to be spoken to about losing their fertility, about the risks to their bones, that there may be a load of unknown risks in terms of their future life. And this conversation will be with 10, 11, 12-year-olds it really is staggering to believe that this is the intention is that this goes ahead.
And as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, the NHS has said that they will give puberty blockers to as many as 200 children, some as young as 8, as part of a study. In what world is it sensible to give hormone blockers to 8-year-olds? They're not even capable of knowing what football team they support.
I know. I mean, you just have to cast your mind back, if you can, that long ago to when you were that age. These issues would be so far removed from your thinking. The ability to understand what is going to be done to you and the effect of these hormones. I mean, it is remarkable, and I think it's a reflection of how far we've lost our way from basic common sense. So here we are experimenting on children. Now, experiments do happen on children for some very good reasons. Sometimes maybe in cancer treatment, we know what we're treating. We know the risks. But here we're treating a feeling that I might not be a boy or I might not be a girl. And what we know is that those feelings change over time anyway. They naturally, for many people, many children, they naturally resolve. And yet here we are intervening, offering powerful, life-changing drugs. So
Paul,
very, very concerning.
Paul, would it not be a more sensible approach, and you know much more about this than I, would it not be a more measured and sensible approach to offer friendship, offer counselling, offer mental health support, but don't start pressing the button on hormones, on surgery, until children are capable of making grown-up decisions about it? And some might say that is age 18, or is part of the problem here is that we have an NHS that's almost leaning towards being a pro-trans activist organisation.
Well, the CAS review recommended that there was a trial, and that is surprising given what else was said in the CAS review, that there was such limited evidence for this treatment, and given what we do know, which is the very significant harms that the children will be exposed to. I think a much more, as you rightly say, an approach that involves psychotherapy. These are a well-trodden path, but also testing on animals. We know that there have been tests on sheep relating to puberty blockers, and those have yielded concerning results. And also the opportunity to look back on those people that have gone through the Tavistock and find out what happened there. It seems that there are many other ways to find out whether the effect of puberty blockers without having to bring these children into this study.
Well, Paul Conray, thank you for joining us on the show. And it just seems to me that we should just do much more investigation into whether we should even proceed with this kind of stuff before we perhaps change minds and bodies and families and perhaps wider society forever. Paul Conray, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. I really appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you. Now, a Department of Health and Social Care spokesperson has told GBNews this: young people with gender incongruence need access to high-quality, safe and effective care. We are following the CAS review, which was clear that the evidence on care for these children is lacking, and proposed this research to help provide it. Medical care must always be based on solid evidence, and children's safety must come first. Well, still lots more to come between now and 5 p.m, including the budget now is less than 24 hours away, and a taxpayer-funded cycle scheme, well, it could be coming off its wheels. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you from the newsroom. 4:34. Sir Keir Starmer says ceasefire talks are moving in a positive direction, telling leaders of the coalition of the willing he's been briefed on encouraging progress. A senior Kyiv official says Ukraine now backs the essence of a US brokered deal, but the most sensitive points still need to be settled directly between Ukrainian and US presidents. Graham Linehan, the creator of Father Ted, has been cleared of harassment today but found guilty of criminal damage for knocking a trans activist's phone to the ground. The judge ruled his online posts didn't meet the legal threshold for harassment. Linehan says he acted on reflex and claims he's been targeted for his views on gender identity. Well, ahead of tomorrow's budget, the Chancellor is expected to double down on slashing NHS waiting times. Rachel Reeves will confirm funding for hundreds of new neighbourhood health centres, bringing medical care closer to the doorsteps. The government will also give mayors in England powers to introduce a visitor levy, adding a charge to overnight hotel stays, B&Bs and holiday lets. Ministers say it will be up to local leaders whether to impose it. And in France, police have arrested 4 more suspects over last month's Louvre jewel heist. 2 men and 2 women were detained today, joining 4 others already under investigation. But officials admit there's still no trace of the $100 million haul. Those are the headlines. I'll be back with the news at 5.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day out there, and even where we've got some showers, they'll tend to ease during the rest of the day. Fine and sunny as we end the afternoon, but with clear skies overnight, it's certainly going to be a frosty one. A ridge of high pressure across the UK, low pressure moving away, so showers tending to ease, but a few continuing into the evening across parts of eastern England, a few more into western Scotland. Otherwise, for many, it is a clear start to the night, and as a result, temperatures will fall away. A widespread frost forming by dawn. We're looking at typical numbers inland and in urban areas of -1 Celsius, but in the countryside -2 to -6 degrees. Not so frosty to the west. Here we've got cloud and some outbreaks of rain into the north and west of Scotland. That rain turning heavier for a time during the morning, clouding over also across central Scotland, but still some sunshine to be had in the east. Northern Ireland also turning cloudy with outbreaks of rain increasingly heavy and persistent through the morning. Wales in the southwest, a bright start but increasing cloud from the west, whilst the Midlands, the east and the south and southeast of England see the lion's share of sunny skies, albeit with a chill first thing. We keep the sunshine across the southeastern quadrant into the afternoon, but elsewhere across the United Kingdom we've got thicker cloud moving in, a freshening breeze and outbreaks of rain into the north and the west. That will lift temperatures double figures towards the west and southwest. A colder feel in the east, but at least we keep the sunshine until the sun goes down in the far southeast. That's when these outbreaks of rain finally move through. They clear on Thursday, but it stays dull and damp in places, albeit with much higher temperatures compared with recent days.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say, because when you talk, we listen.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M65 eastbound in Lancashire, a broken down vehicle at junction 9 has closed one lane. In Derbyshire, expect 20-minute delays on the A38 southbound between the A50 and junction A5132. In Hertfordshire, a collision on the A1M southbound at junction 7 has closed one lane, causing 40-minute delays. The M20 westbound in Kent at junction 9 is fully closed due to a road incident. In Cornwall, the A30 westbound has one lane closed due to an abandoned vehicle. And on the trains, expect disruptions between Stevenage and London King's Cross. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 4:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, cyclists are set to be targeted as well by Rachel Reeves in the budget tomorrow, with a plan to cut a tax break for buying new bikes, and that's according to reports. Now, it hits cyclists who buy expensive manual and even electric models under salary sacrifice schemes. And many of them, of course, live in London and the South East. Well, let's now speak with the so-called vigilante cyclist, and that's Dave Sherry. Dave, welcome to the show. So the cycle scheme, where people basically get tax breaks from their salary to purchase bikes, used to be up to £1,000. Now it's an incredible £10,000. This costs the Treasury around about £150 million in lost revenue per year. I had a load of friends who used to do this, and my question to you is simple. Why should the taxpayer pay for middle-aged men to get triathlon bikes?
Oh, it'd be good for the environment. That's a good start. It's one less vehicle on the road. And, you know, it's good for your health. Amazing health benefits.
Well, it's not good for my blood pressure, Dave, if I'm giving £150 million away to cyclists. Presumably, if they want to buy a bike, they're perfectly able to go and do that themselves. There's no tax relief scheme for example, white van men to get to work. Why are cyclists a special breed?
Well, at the end of the day, it's probably less cost on the NHS. And like you say, it does make your blood pressure raise. You see a doctor for it. As a means of transport and the health benefits, you can't really argue with it. It's a good idea, and it's the way forward.
But I knew a lot of people, Dave, who did this, and they never used the cycle to go to work. They drove or they took public transport, but they got themselves a nice bike. They can now buy a £10,000 carbon fibre racing bike, you know, on an interest-free, tax-free basis, and it's subsidised by the taxpayer. This might have started out as a good idea to get people moving, to cycle to work, but it's become a way of people buying expensive, nice Playboy-style gadgets at the taxpayer's expense. It's a con.
It's amazing news. Amazing news. It keeps the bike industries and the manufacturers in a job, makes their profits go up, and it recirculates back into tax and all that. So at the end of the day, the bigger picture is it's going to be beneficial to white van man and other car drivers, because that's one less car on the road, and that means it will be cutting traffic. If it's got to be government subsidised, then it is what it is. It's a tax write-off.
It's not a tax write-off if we're losing £150 million in lost tax per year, and that is why Rachel Reeves is eyeing up getting rid of this tax loophole. What would your message be to Rachel Reeves?
Keep up the good work and more bikes on the road. Can't grumble.
But that's not what she's doing, though, Dave. She's going to axe this scheme, meaning that this tax loophole will be closed, meaning that your two-wheeled Nirvana will be coming to a crashing end.
Till you see it, don't believe it.
So you think this will go on and it's just yet more hot air from the Chancellor, yet more gossip?
Well, if you don't see it in a couple of days' time, then you'll know it's hot air. So I don't think it's going to change. It's the way forward. It's been going on for years. I've got many of us cycle on a cycle scheme. So it's just the way you got to do it.
And what about the notion that it's also been broadened out to feature e-bikes? I mean, that gets rid of any notion this is about good health. If you're just sitting on a bike and you start pedalling, then the battery does the rest.
Well, the pedal assisted, so they only get you up to 15.5 miles an hour. So it's no different to the Lime bikes and the Boris bikes. At the end of the day, it's your own personal bike, and you can choose to do whatever you want to do with it. I've got an e-bike with a couple. And, you know, they're amazing to take your dog for a walk and let him let rip and go full speed. So I do believe e-bikes are beneficial, especially to those who are not very exercising.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you very much. That's the vigilante cyclist, Dave Sherry. Thanks very much for joining us today on GB News. I wonder what your thoughts are on that scheme. You know, but look, I'm all for people, you know, getting on their bike in any capacity to pay taxes, ideally. And that's the point. I just wonder if cyclists getting a £150 million tax break to get a bike, and I disagree with Dave there. I know a load of people who just buy triathlon bikes to kind of swan around country lanes at the weekend, you know, in their sort of fantasy of becoming a Tour de France cyclist. And why should I pay for that as a taxpayer? I'd love a tax break to get a motorbike. Why should I get that? Why should I get another handout from the government? I think that's the point. And maybe it's a loophole that the government should be closing. Now, I know there are quite a lot of militant cyclists out there, tell me I'm wrong. Get in touch. Now, loads of you have been getting in touch so far at home, and this is on that same point. Simon says this: cyclists are quite a self-righteous bunch. We think they're so virtuous. Finally, Rachel Reeves is doing something right. Now, Linda adds this: I'm really not looking forward to this budget at all. I believe it will be a disaster. And Jane adds this: I hope Rachel Reeves doesn't go after our motorists. I feel sorry for her, though. And Rob adds, Rachel Reeves is not a victim of misogyny. She is just not a very good chancellor. Of course, that's that huge debate. Is it misogynistic to criticise Rachel Reeves? And I said in my previous debate, it didn't seem to be misogynistic at the time when the left were absolutely tearing into Liz Truss and they were tearing into Kwasi Kwarteng, of course, the first black chancellor. No one seemed to care then. It only seems to matter if you're a woman from the political left. Simon adds this: I'm paying for you to get a bike. Definitely close the loophole. Bikes are woke wagons. Never heard that one before. Thank you very much, Simon. Now, still to come, councillors in Northern Ireland have voted to change the name of a road called Prince Andrew Way. You can see there it's been graffitied. They've had enough of it. But first, if we insert some holiday sun, then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, we've got some wet weather pushing through the Mediterranean this week. It should turn drier by the time we get to the weekend, however. In the Canary Islands, it's looking relatively dry, highs around 19 degrees. A little bit cooler towards Lisbon, 11 or 12 degrees. Now, here's that wet weather I mentioned. It's moving across parts of Italy, Slovenia, as well as Croatia and into Greece later on this week. But parts of Italy, as well as Croatia, should get drier by Friday or Saturday, with temperatures remaining a little below average. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
That's right. I mean, the rifts can last a lifetime. And that's because the event is so emotional. We see it at funerals and we see it at weddings in particular. That idea that what you've got is a fight for territory, really, a fight for possession. And particularly when one particular child is moving into another family, that can stir up a lot of angst for the parent, for that generation. And things get said and things get seen, slights get perceived, and before you know it, you've got a full-blown crisis. But there have been stories around who gets to go for a hen party, for example. And I think it's very unusual to have an intergenerational hen party. Who wants to have their mother, hen parties...
My mum wasn't at my hen party. She wouldn't want to be.
The thing is, they get quite
drunk.
They get
20,
quite lewd. And
Yeah.
would you want your future in-mother-law to watch you play some variant of pinning the appendage on whatever? So I think there are reasons why you don't invite everybody, but then who gets the territory? I think if you can be much more magnanimous and accept that it isn't about losing a child but gaining a family, then you can have a very different mindset.
It's interesting, though, because just by raising all of that, there's a lot of focus on saying, well, Adam Peaty has uninvited his mother. But this, whatever the tension, it must be from both sides, presumably.
Yeah. That's right. And nobody will really know what it's about because they themselves will probably not know what it's about. And it may actually be about things historically that are now being brought up into the surface. But we see it at Christmas as well. In the run-up to Christmas, there will be tensions about who gets to go where on the day.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there.
With expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day all day tomorrow.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 5. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, councillors have voted to change the name of a road in Northern Ireland. It's currently called Prince Andrew Way. Now, the motion was brought forward by the councillors in the mid and east of Antrim, as they said that the former prince no longer reflected the values of the community. You can see there on your screen, it's been graffitied out of existence. Well, let's now speak with the DUP councillor for the area where the street is, and that is Mark Collins. Mr. Collins, welcome to the show. So I'm assuming the locals in your area just said they've had enough, it's inappropriate, they've got the right royal hump. They want this street name changing.
The argument has been and gone on for a number of years. You know, way back when the late Queen Elizabeth II had taken some action against Andrew, the argument sort of raised its head. And then in more recent times, particularly with His Majesty the King removing Andrew's prince title, is when I think it sort of reached boiling point, and we decided it was high time we made a change.
And I suppose the public are voting with their feet there. They're showing directly. We can see on our screens there, Mark Collins. They've simply graffitied over it anyway. They're making their feelings be very publicly be known. They've got rid of the Prince word there. Currently, it is just Andrew Way. So there's a unanimous vote to change this. Tell us, what will the street be called in future, and why? How did you choose that name?
Well, I think I made the point in the council meeting last night. It's important that we do community consultation on whatever the new name might be. For my part and for the part of my party, the Democratic Unionist Party, we feel it's vital that we keep that royal link. There's been a few suggestions. Princess Anne, we have Prince William and Princess Catherine are currently Baron and Baroness of Carrickfergus. So, look, there's options being thrown about, but I think it's important we obviously speak with residents, especially those that'll be affected, and then we look at our options from there. But I think it's key that we keep the royal link.
And that'll be gratifying for our viewers, no doubt, to hear. This isn't an attempt to purge the royal family out of existence on this street. It's simply a case of, if you like, erasing a public figure who's become damaging in the association, but you still want to maintain the link to the royal family.
No, absolutely. I mean, Carrickfergus has a really strong affinity with the royal family. Just recently, as I say, Prince William and Princess Catherine were in the town for a few events. The streets were lined with thousands of people. Princess Anne has visited recently with the local sea cadets. So, look, Carrickfergus, we've strong and proud British values. As I say, we have that strong affinity with the royal family. So I think it's vitally important that we keep that royal link.
You know, Mark Collins, I'm glad to hear that. I think a lot of people, when they see this kind of story, they think it's like, I don't know, the royal family being erased, or it's like wokery or anti-royalist. This isn't that at all. It's simply adapting with the times, and surely, Mark Collins, that's a healthy thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you could accuse myself or the DUP of being woke. Very pro-British, very proud of that, very proud of the royal family. I think it's the fact that recent actions have cast a bit of a shadow, particularly over Andrew, but by extension over the royal household. So I think it's the right move to remove that name and to perhaps honour someone more deserving.
Beautiful. Great stuff. Well, thanks for joining us. Give us your opinion there. That's Mark Collins, DP councillor for the area. Thank you very, very much indeed. Well, here's one street I hope that they don't get rid of. Daubney Street. Wow. Do you know what? I didn't even know that existed. Some poor so-and-so's got to live on that. It won't be my wife. Now, coming up, it's less than 24 hours to go to the most widely feared budget in modern history. What is it for grabs? So far, we've heard weekends in London, a holiday tax, milkshake tax, fizzy pop tax. What else is the Labour Party coming for? They're even coming for our coffees. Some people are calling them the latte louts. Could be the most feared budget in a generation. We'll have all the build-up to that next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News.
Expect warm spells
with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day out there, and even where we've got some showers, they'll tend to ease during the rest of the day. Fine and sunny as we end the afternoon, but with clear skies overnight, it's certainly going to be a frosty one. A ridge of high pressure across the UK, low pressure moving away, so showers tending to ease, but a few continuing into the evening across parts of eastern England, a few more into western Scotland. Otherwise, for many, it is a clear start to the night, and as a result, temperatures will fall away. A widespread frost forming by dawn. We're looking at typical numbers inland and in urban areas of -1 Celsius, but in the countryside -2 to -6 degrees. Not so frosty to the west. Here we've got cloud and some outbreaks of rain into the north and west of Scotland. That rain turning heavier for a time during the morning, clouding over also across central Scotland, but still some sunshine to be had in the east. Northern Ireland also turning cloudy with outbreaks of rain increasingly heavy and persistent through the morning. Wales in the southwest, a bright start but increasing cloud from the west, whilst the Midlands, the east and the south and southeast of England see the lion's share of sunny skies, albeit with a chill first thing. We keep the sunshine across the southeastern quadrant into the afternoon, but elsewhere across the United Kingdom we've got thicker cloud moving in, a freshening breeze and outbreaks of rain into the north and the west. That will lift temperatures double figures towards the west and southwest. A colder feel in the east, but at least we keep the sunshine until the sun goes down in the far southeast. That's when these outbreaks of rain finally move through. They clear on Thursday, but it stays dull and damp in places, albeit with much higher temperatures compared with recent days.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Significant delays are on the A55 eastbound, with diversions between junction 31 at Caerwys and junction 32 at Dolphin near Holywell. In Leicestershire, an incident on the M69 southbound between junctions 2 and 1 has closed one lane, expected to resume by 6 this evening. In Hertfordshire, a collision on the A1M southbound at junction 7 is causing 15-minute delays. The M20 westbound entry slip at junction 9 in Kent is closed due to a collision, expected to clear by 10 tonight. And on the trains, disruptions are affecting services between Stevenage and London King's Cross. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens. Opinion and debate,
and, of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News on Budget Eve. We're broadcasting live across the UK, all the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. Here's what's coming up on today's action-packed show. With less than 24 hours to go now until that budget, a Nottingham builder has gone viral for claiming he often works in neighbourhoods where nobody gets up before 11 a.m. I'll be joined by him on the show. There he is. And with the £15 billion of extra benefits being handed out tomorrow, I'll also be joined by Tony, who claims we're fools to put up with this state of affairs. And breaking news for you now, jury trials for most crimes are set to be scrapped under proposals to be unveiled by David Lammy next month. And also on today's show, the National Crime Agency has launched a rural crime crackdown after it's emerged that gangs of East European criminals are helping to fleece British farmers 44 million quid's worth of kit and livestock every year. But on today's show, I'll speak to a farmer who's blasts British farming's biggest thief is Rachel Reeves. And Crufts has been blasted. They've been accused of doggy wokery after a decision to allow mongrels to enter for the first time in its 150-year history, with Crufts claiming their move is in the name of canine inclusivity. Are they barking up the wrong tree? Canine inclusivity. Equality for dogs. Have they lost the plot? All eyes now on the Chancellor tomorrow. People looking through their fingers, expecting to be bad news. An astonishing opinion poll out today paints a very bleak picture. 57% of Brits unsure the cost of living crisis will ever come to an end. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves enjoying record low popularity levels, lower even than Sir Keir Starmer. Do you believe in miracles before Christmas? Because if so, the Chancellor will surely need one tomorrow, or will it turn into another nightmare on Downing Street? Get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do so. But now it's time for your news headlines, and here's Sam Francis.
Martin, thank you. Good evening to you. 2 minutes past 5. My name is not Tatiana Sanchez. Major movement this afternoon on the Ukraine peace negotiations. Sir Keir Starmer says weekend talks between the US and Ukraine in Geneva have moved in a positive direction, with a draft peace framework now largely acceptable to President Zelensky. Chairing a call with allies in the so-called Coalition of the Willing, the Prime Minister said Ukraine has proposed constructive changes and urged leaders to firm up commitments to a future multinational peacekeeping force. Sir Keir also confirmed the UK will send more air defence missiles in the coming weeks and called for a full embargo on Russian energy to keep up pressure on Moscow. Here, meanwhile, Graham Linehan has been cleared of harassment but found guilty of criminal damage over an incident involving a trans activist's phone. The court heard he deliberately whacked Sophia Brooks' phone from her hand outside a conference last October before throwing it into the road. Today, the judge ruled his online posts did not meet the threshold for harassment, but the damage to the phone did. Linehan, who denied both charges, spoke outside court earlier, saying he acted on reflex and argued that he's been targeted for his views on gender identity.
I'm very pleased by today's verdict. The judge found me and the women who gave evidence on my behalf to be credible, honest witnesses and said that my actions were not criminal and did not constitute harassment. The judge commented that the complainant, a well-known trans activist, was not truthful. There are a group of dangerous men who are determined to bully women and girls and to misuse the courts and police in furtherance of a misogynistic agenda. I'm proud to have stood up to them and I will continue to do so. I'm grateful to the Free Speech Union for their unwavering support and for helping to ensure that those who speak out against these dangerous activists are protected.
Budget, and Rachel Reeves says she'll still be Chancellor in 2 years' time, hitting back at what she calls misogyny in public life and insisting she won't be driven off course. She's also warning Labour MPs that tomorrow's £30 billion tax-raising budget must be backed as a single package. Speaking to Parliamentary Labour Party members, she said recent leaks were incredibly destabilising, urging her colleagues to close ranks and focus. Ms Reeves says unity and discipline are essential if the government wants to earn a second term. Well, earlier today, Shadow Levelling Up Secretary James Cleverly gave his reaction.
I don't think it's legitimate to criticise person for basically their chromosomes. So I'm critical of her because she was completely dishonest in the lead up to the general election about their tax plans, that she has ramped up taxes, she is killing jobs, this constant briefing, U-turning, re-briefing, re-U-turning is crushing confidence in the British economy just at the time when we need it to be most active. These are the things she should be criticised for, not because she's a woman.
Also in budget news, the government says local mayors in England will soon be given new powers to introduce a visitor levy, which would be a charge on overnight stays in hotels, B&Bs, holiday lets and guest houses. It's part of plans being set out ahead of tomorrow's budget, with ministers saying the decision on whether to impose that tax will rest entirely with mayors and local leaders. If introduced, it would add a small fee to tourists' accommodation bills, similar to city taxes already used across Europe. A major incident's been declared in West London, where 150 firefighters or so are battling a large blaze at a warehouse in Southall. Crews were called to the two-storey building this morning after residents reported hearing huge explosions. The London Fire Brigade says a warehouse and a retail unit are alight. They're urging people nearby to keep windows and doors shut because of thick smoke. And some breaking news for you this hour. We're just hearing reports from Sir Richard Branson that he has emotionally announced his wife Joan has sadly passed away. In an Instagram post shared this afternoon, the Virgin Group founder posted a photo of his late partner, writing, "Heartbroken to share that Joan, my wife and partner of 50 years, has passed away." He continued, "She was my best friend, my rock, my guiding light. Love you forever, Jones." That news just into us from a social media post from Sir Richard Branson, announcing emotionally that his wife Joan has passed away. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Next, though, one last look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here are the markets for you just after 5 o'clock. The pound will buy you $1.3138 and €1.1387. The price of gold is £3,145, 43 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,534 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Yes, and let's cross live now to the White House, where President Trump is taking part in the annual turkey pardoning ceremony. Let's get those pictures on our screen now. There's Donald Trump.
Today we continue a time-honored American tradition. Well, that's a well-trained turkey. See how happy he is? In a few moments, I will grant a full, absolute, and unconditional presidential pardon to two handsome Thanksgiving turkeys, and this is their lucky day. This is a lucky day for them. But before going any further, I want to make an important announcement, because you remember last year, after a thorough and very rigorous investigation by Pam Bondi and all of the people at Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the White House Counsel's Office, and the Department of Everything. We have a Department of Everything. You know what that is? I think that's called the White House. Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined, that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid, as are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned, other than Where's Hunter? No, Hunter's was good. That was the one pardon, Pam, that was good, right? The rest of them are all invalid. I don't know what the hell you're going to do about that, but that's, now we're going to take a little of the joking. That is a mess. But they're hereby null and void. The turkeys known as Peach and Blossom last year have been located, and they were on their way to be processed. In other words, to be killed. But I have stopped that journey, and I am officially pardoning them. And they will not be served for Thanksgiving dinner. We saved them in the nick of time. This one has plenty of time, but they were saved in the nick of time. We're thrilled to be joined today by Vice President J.D. Vance, Second Lady Usha Vance, their daughter Mirabelle, and along with Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretaries Marco Rubio, Scott Bessent, Pete Hegseth, Brooke Rollins, Howard Lutnick, Linda McMahon, Scott Turner, Administrator Lee Zeldin, who's done a great job. A nuclear power plant gets approved in less than a week, okay? I'm only kidding, but pretty close to that. And we have more. Where's Lee? Stand up, Lee. One of my great superstars. Thank you. Used to take 20 years before you got rejected when you put in an application. Now we're doing them in a matter of weeks, right? And that's why we have the biggest plants anywhere in the world. We're leading in AI. We're leading in everything. Our auto plants are pouring back into our country. Wait till you see the jobs coming with them. But many of them are under construction. But Lee's done a great job in getting those approvals. I appreciate it very much. FBI Director Kash Patel has been very busy doing a great job. Also, thank you, Kash. Along with members of, see, you got a following, Kash. Along with members of Congress, and in particular, I want to mention Jason Smith and David Rozier. Where are those two guys? Come on, stand up, fellas. What good people. Jason knows more about the tax code than any living human being. He knows so much, we don't even want to hear about it, right? Too complicated. We're going to make it a simpler code. But we did in the great big beautiful bill that was just passed, your imprints all over that, and it's amazing. The biggest tax cuts in the history of our country for middle-income people. The biggest tax cuts in the history of our country for middle-income people. And the biggest jobs bill ever passed. And nobody thought we could get that one done. I'm glad. We actually put 4 years, actually probably 8 or 10 years, but we put 4 years worth of material into one great, big, beautiful bill. So that worked out very well, and I want to thank everybody for working on it. JD, that was a great, well, you know, we were going to do it in small bills. We're going to have 18 bills and do it along the process. I'm glad, Scott, that we got it done, because dealing with these Democrats, I think that was our one shot. But we have it all in one great, big, beautiful bill. Thanks as well to the chairman of the National Turkey Federation and the CEO of Butterball. That's a big deal. Jay Jandren. Where's Jay? Thank you. Stand up, Jay. Thank you very much. Along with his wife, Leslie, and their 3 children, as well as the farmer who raised these 2 magnificent birds, Travis Pittman, and Wayne County, North Carolina. I won Wayne County by a lot. That means you had to vote for Trump, I think. I won by 92%. I like Wayne County. They're doing all right, right? And this is like a record-setting turkey that's going to be saved. The turkeys being pardoned today go by the names of Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw their pictures, I thought we should send them, well, I shouldn't say this. I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those 2 people. I wouldn't pardon them. I wouldn't care what Melania told me. Darling, I think it would be a nice thing to do. I won't do it, darling. These are 2 of the largest turkeys ever presented to an American president, over 50 pounds each. It's the largest we've ever had. And those are big turkeys. Are they as good as the normal-sized turkey? Better or as good? Do they tend to be a little fatty, maybe? No, he said no. He knows the turkey business. Anyway, despite their size, Secretary Kennedy has formally certified that these are the first ever Maha turkeys. I don't know if I agree with that. These are Maha. In other words, they could be fat, but they're still Maha. They've been fattened on a steady diet of grass, beef, to allow the smoothies and all of the other things that they've been eating for this occasion. This was a really big occasion, but they've eaten every fattening food that you can eat. We wanted to really make them special, and they really are. They're like record-setting. I've never seen a turkey that big before. Are they violent at all? Will they attack as I walk over? Because if they were, I'll stay right up here. But as you know, we're a tough on crime administration. We are tough on crime. You know, our border had 0 people coming in for the last 7 months, right? 0. I mean, even I find that hard to believe. They had millions and millions of people pour into our border from prisons, from mental institutions, gang members, drug dealers. They poured in to our country like we were stupid people. We're not stupid people anymore. But nobody's ever seen anything. The job that they've done on the Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, the whole group, the job they've done on the border is almost like a miracle. We have, and the people that make these statistics that said 0, they've said 0 for the last 7 months. I can't, it has to be like a few people got in, but they say 0. And they're radical left Democrats to do the scoring. So I can't imagine they did that for us. The truth is, we have no people coming into our country illegally. It's an amazing statistic, and I'm very proud of it. And we have the most people working in the United States today, by far, than we ever had in the history of our country. So those are all good numbers. But instead of pardons, some of my more enthusiastic staffers were already drafting the paperwork to ship Gobble and Waddle straight to the terrorist confinement center in El Salvador. And even those birds don't want to be there. You know what I mean? It was a tough. I'd like to thank the president of that country. They do a rather efficient job. It's got to be the largest prison in history. I've never seen anything like it. And a lot of people are behaving on our streets now. You know, Washington, D.C. is considered a safe zone. This was one of our most unsafe places anywhere in the United States. It is now.
That's Donald Trump there, the president, at the annual pardoning of the turkey ceremony. We didn't quite get to the turkeys there. Donald Trump talking turkey, perhaps rather for too long. But the turkeys in question, called Gobble and Waddle, not named after Chris Waddle, otherwise that one might be getting the chop with England fans. Gobble and Waddle, been pardoned by Donald Trump. When we do get eyes on those turkeys, they're magnificent beasts. We'll get back in there. But moving on, the Chancellor has accused her critics of misogyny and called on nervous Labour MPs to unite behind her ahead of tomorrow's widely anticipated budget. Also, in her defiant message, she insisted she'll be the Chancellor in 2 years' time as businesses across the country brace themselves for tax rises. Well, let's now speak with Tony. He's a Nottinghamshire builder who's gone viral for blasting the Chancellor in a tweet. Tony, welcome to the show. Your tweet, I think so far it's had about 1.7 million views, and there's a great picture of you, I've got to say, looking rather buff, on a building site, and you're talking about the fact that you're one of these so-called alarm clock workers. You get up every day, you've been doing that since you're a teenager, going to work, and you're working in neighbourhoods where everybody else seems to be in bed. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, it does just seem to be the case. I mean, obviously, I'm not clairvoyant. I don't know everybody else's business. But you go to these places. So I get up in the morning and it's, you know, if we're working locally, I'm out the door before 7. And before that, I've loaded the van up and I've made my sandwiches and made my flask and I'm out the door and I'm there. And you go to these places, I won't name any specific areas, but sometimes you go to places where it does seem that a lot of the people that live there don't seem to move in the morning. Now, conversely, I had a day off the other day because I had to go for a wellman check because I'm nearly 50. And where I live in a reasonable area, middle of the road sort of area, suburbs of Nottingham. And I still got up early because I'm kind of conditioned to do so because I'm a working man. And 6:30, 7 o'clock, everyone's moving. The households around me, the lights are on, people are moving about, before long cars are moving about, and so on. There's a lot of movement. But you go to some of these other areas, and there's very, very little movement. Now, no doubt some people that live there perhaps have got good reason for not going to work. Maybe they're ill or disabled or so on and so forth. But it's just a stark difference I see when I go to numerous areas that I sometimes have to go to work. And you just see, you know, it's my observation that a lot of the people don't, and then, you know, there's a lot of people of all ages don't seem to go to work in the day. You normally see a lot of movement come sort of 11 or 12 o'clock. Yeah, that's what I see.
And Tony, you say you're seeing people kind of shuffling around in their pyjamas if they go on the school run.
I don't get it. I don't get this thing with mums getting up and so you do see that. You see that at the school run time. You see well, not all of them. I'm not saying everybody, but it does seem to be the thing where some people, they get up, they're in their pajamas, and then they take the kids to school, and then they're back home, and and then you see nothing for the rest of the day. And I don't get the pajama thing. It's very strange, isn't it?
And Tony, you're also saying that a lot of the cars, these 25-plate cars, they're no doubt PIP cars, the Motability Scheme. So what you're painting a picture of here are people living on benefits while you're out servicing the country, you're doing your work, and looking ahead to the budget tomorrow, we're expecting to see, Tony, a £15 billion benefits bonanza. And I wanted to ask you, as somebody who's helping Britain to keep working, how does it make you feel to know that you're going out, you're putting in a decent day's screw, and people are staying in bed while you're paying their benefits?
Yeah, well, it does. The message that's coming through, particularly from this Labour government, is that it doesn't pay to work, does it? I mean, I think I'm in a slightly different position because I'm getting on a little bit now. But like a lot of the young lads that I work with, they've got mortgages, and they sort of, good-sized mortgages. So they've got to perhaps live in a 3-bed semi. And they have got like perhaps a £1,200-1,500 mortgage they've got to find, along with all the other costs and shopping and all the other costs of life, council tax and everything else. And they're grafting themselves to death to do that, to live in that house and have that existence. But there's people next door to, some of the colleagues that I speak to that live in the same area, they've got the same house, and they don't go to work because they're gaming the system. And it's not, I put that tweet out and it resonated with people because there's so many people out there that are seeing the same thing. And, for many, many, many people, it doesn't pay to work, particularly for unscrupulous people that perhaps know how to game the system. And all this is sort of exacerbated when you've got stuff like, on the back of this, you've got the, and I'm not trying to sort of digress too much, but, you keep seeing boatloads of people, how many more people have we got to pay for? And then if we do well, and you do sort of go over that 50 grand tax bracket, 40% of what you're earning beyond there is paying for this clown show. And there's a sort of a tangible sense of anger out there in the public. That's what I feel. That's what I hear from work and from colleagues, and that's what people are saying.
Tony, I think you've absolutely nailed it, and the fact your tweet went so far around the world, I think, has absolutely exacerbated and proven that. Thank you very much for joining us on the show, and thanks for all the work you do. I know you're former copper, you really are the salt of the nation. Thank you very much, Tony, there. Good lad from Nottinghamshire. Back to studio. This is the sort of conversation we need to be having with Chris Hope, the political editor of GBNews, and also the former Labour advisor, Paul Richards. In fact, Paul, I want to start with you this time, if I could. Tony there, I think, just vocalising how many, many people feel. They're getting up, it's cold in the morning, they're going out, they're putting in a shift, they're seeing loads of people swanning around in PIP disability cars, not going to work, living a comparable lifestyle to them, and it's all paid for by the British taxpayer. We've gone terribly wrong, and yet we have a government who can't seem to cut back on benefits.
Well, I think you need to have fairness baked into a system of welfare. I wouldn't get rid of the welfare system completely. If Tony fell off a ladder, he would need benefits to get well again and get back to work. And he's been for a well-man check. I guess that was with the NHS. That's part of where our taxes go. So we do need the safety net. And what people like Tony are absolutely right about is that there are people gaming the system who are cheating the system. And the whole fairness argument is that it should be there when we need it and deserve it, but not for people who should be working and aren't. And we know there's 1 million young people, for example, not even in work at all, or education or training.
Paul,
and plenty more too.
Paul, people watching the show will now be going, I totally agree with you. But,
well, that's good.
But the Labour Party cannot or will not cut the benefits bill. It's going up by 15 billion quid tomorrow. When they tried to cut the benefits bill, there was a backbench rebellion. There is absolutely a feeling in the nation that the Labour Party can posture all they like about being the party of working people. They're becoming the party of the work shy.
I disagree with that. I completely disagree with that. I think you will see reforms in the budget tomorrow which will help people get back to work. If Rachel Reeves does increase the cap so that people with more than 2 children get benefits, then that's money going to the kids. It's not the kids' fault that they happen to be the 3rd or the 4th child, and they shouldn't have to suffer poverty as a result. And we do know that if
don't
you
have
increase,
as many kids,
but they're already here. That's the point. These are children who are currently alive and well.
To have more children if you can't afford it. That's
the argument is that the fastest way to alleviate the poverty of those kids, and it's not their fault that they're in poverty, they didn't ask to be born, is to increase the benefits. So if that's the route we go down tomorrow...
get a job.
And we know that if you grow up in poverty, you're more likely to stay in benefits and be the kinds of people that Tony's talking about. But if we can get people out of poverty, they're more likely to work.
But that's the problem.
And not be reliant on the benefit system in the first place.
You must concur. We have a terrible problem with benefits dependency. And that won't change when you're increasing benefits by 4% tomorrow at a cost of £6 billion.
That will be alongside reforms to get people back to work as well, because we don't want people just lounging about doing nothing and turning up in their pyjamas and getting up at 11. We want them working. The Labour Party is founded on the idea of work being noble and beneficial to the individual and society, and that's what we're all about.
That mission, I think, has been sadly lost. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Chris. Hope. Oh, actually, we are now going back to Trump for that turkey pardoning ceremony. Are we?
There it is.
That's a huge turkey.
That is Donald Trump, as I said, pardoning 2 turkeys. This is an historic tradition. It goes back to the days of Abraham Lincoln. Apparently it started in 1863 when Lincoln pardoned a turkey that his son befriended. And it's since been, pardon my pun, baked in to American political tradition. The 2 turkeys being pardoned today are called Gobble and Waddle, natives of North Carolina, been spared the chop. There was some footage earlier on of Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, showing her child these 2 turkeys. They're massive. They're up to the waist of some people, resplendent 2 beasts, been spared going into the oven this year. This happens every year in Turkey, and there was in America, beg your pardon. And Donald Trump made a pretty funny joke at the start, saying the pardons that Joe Biden signed. Remember the hoo-ha around the auto pens? Of course, Donald Trump reversed all of the pardons. He said, however, I won't be reversing the pardons on last year's birds. They were called Peach and Blossom. that Joe Biden spared, and Donald Trump said he gave them a last-minute reprieve. There we have the curious proposal there of 2 turkeys being pardoned by the President of the United States. Now, we've got some breaking news for you now, and it pertains to tomorrow's budgets, beg your pardon. Here's this. Farmers have accused Scotland Yard of 2-tier policing. After the Metropolitan Police has announced that vehicle restrictions exist for farmers attending tomorrow's protest. Think about that. There was a farmers' protest planned for Whitehall, Westminster tomorrow on the day of the budget. The Metropolitan Police has just announced that won't happen. Vehicle restrictions for farmers attending that protest tomorrow. The force announced that while people will be still allowed to demonstrate, conditions have been put in place to prevent protesters from bringing their vehicles, including tractors or other agricultural plant vehicles, to the protest. Chris Hope, let's get some immediate reaction from you. This is going to infuriate the farming community, and it will be clear to a lot of people watching, this looks like 2-tier policing. They never cancelled the pro-Palestine protests. They're cancelling a farming protest on budget day.
Well, Martin, it may look like that. We don't know the detail yet. We don't know why it was cancelled. Was enough notice given? Is there a problem tomorrow with road safety issue. We don't know the reasons why, and I think it's quite important that Scotland Yard do explain why they've cancelled this demonstration. The reason why it matters is that tomorrow is the final budget before these changes come in inheritance tax. The last chance for the farming community to protest against the family farms tax, as they call it, the changes to inheritance tax, which will affect so many farms. Big concerns for the community. By not giving them their chance to protest, it will make matters worse, increase frustrations amongst those campaigners.
Well, I've just messaged the organisers. It's Martin Williams and Ollie Harrison. They've been organising the protest since the beginning. I've just messaged both of them. Let's see if they get back to me with a response.
Is there a reason? Why has it happened?
Why was this cancelled? Paul Richards, this will look like two-tier policing. It will look like a clampdown on a protest that doesn't suit the government's narrative, particularly on budget day, no matter how you dress it up.
I don't think it's two-tier, because you'll remember this is the same square where the police went in and broke heads and did mass arrests of the pro-Palestinian demonstrators when they were trying to disrupt the same square.
And 2 years.
And those guys were not driving enormous tractors. They were just standing on the ground. And I think the protesters can still come, the farmers can still come with placards and megaphones and make their point as ministers walk into the budget, but what they can't do is stop all the traffic at SW1, which I think is not unreasonable.
But it's a public space, it's a public road.
And the public are allowed.
But their licensed vehicles are allowed on the King's Highway. This is a clampdown.
You know full well that their desire is not to just use the public highway. Their plan is to clog the traffic up all around Westminster
just
to make the point.
Just the Hoyle, by the way, would worse than this.
Well, I don't agree with them either, do I? I don't think they should be allowed to clog up the central London's traffic either. You know, protest has to come with some limits, and freedom to protest can't be at the expense of other people going about their business. And there are people who work in Westminster who have to just go about their business.
You're honestly saying that this sudden clampdown on the eve of the budget from a farming community who talk to us all the time about how farmers have committed suicide because of the clampdown from the Labour government, multi-generational farmers being split, simply having to surrender their land to the highest bidder. Big landowners, meanwhile, don't give a toot cahoot. They keep on paying the tax. It won't impact them. You don't think they have a legitimate right to protest, as they have, with perfect peacefulness, no arrests on any of these farming protests, to my certain knowledge. You're saying that this is the sort of protest a government should be clamping down on?
I'm saying specifically what is being stopped are these massive agricultural vehicles, you know, the size of buildings, being brought in en masse into the centre of London, which will have an enormous economic and social impact. The farmers themselves, of course, are very welcome to come and protest, and so they should.
I've got to say, Martin, looking at some of the detail here on Facebook, plans are very detailed plans of marshals. They're leaving at 4:30 in the morning, arriving at 7:30 in the morning, a go slow at Whitehall at 9 a.m. Speakers including Alistair Carmichael from Lib Dems, Richard Tice from Reform UK, budget being read at 12:30, and then further a shadow MP speaking in the afternoon. It was a properly organised event.
It was
it is a surprise and a great blow for the farmers.
It's an organised event, organised by farmers with great experience of organising protests who've never had any trouble with the police whatsoever before. And it will seem to any rational person watching this, Chris Hope, that this is a politically motivated clampdown on budget day to try and avoid a government further embarrassment when they're already on the rocks about farming. You know full well from being inside the chamber.
You can hear it. You can hear the horns. They are very loud horns. You can hear them. I'm always loath to say it's a political issue here because the Met Police have a lot of things to think about. There might be a reason we don't know yet, but going on the Facebook groups here, it hasn't been announced yet why it's been cancelled.
Well, we'll find out more on that. I'll try and get hold of the organisers for you before the end of the show. Many people might think that is a politically motivated clampdown. Thank you very much, Paul Richards and Chris Hope. Still to come, we'll bring more reaction to that farmers' strike there. The farmers' protest being banned from bringing vehicles to protest against Rachel Reeves' budget tomorrow. That had been planned. That had been approved. Now there's been a clampdown. We'll try and find out why. But first, it's time for your traffic and your travel update. Stick with us.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On Newcastle upon Tyne's A1 southbound near the junction with the A69, a collision has closed 2 lanes. Local diversions are in place. In Kent, the M20 westbound entry slip at junction 9 is closed due to a multi-car incident. In Hertfordshire, the A1M southbound at junction 7 has a lane closed, causing minor delays. The M62 eastbound at Salford has delays due to a broken down vehicle. The A49 northbound in Herefordshire faces an extra 30-minute delay due to congestion. And on the trains, disruption between Stevenage and London King's Cross affects Grand Central and Great Northern services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Very good evening to you. Just after 5:30. Well, Sir Keir Starmer says ceasefire talks are moving in a positive direction. Telling leaders of the Coalition of the Willing he has been briefed on encouraging progress. A senior Kyiv official says Ukraine backs the essence of a US brokered deal, but the most sensitive points still need to be settled directly between President Zelensky and Donald Trump. Zelensky could travel to the US within just days to try to finalise an agreement. Ahead of tomorrow's budget, the Chancellor is expected to double down on slashing NHS waiting times. Rachel Reeves will confirm funding for hundreds of new neighbourhood health centres, bringing medical care closer to people's doorsteps. And the government will also try to give mayors in England powers to introduce a visitor levy, adding a charge to overnight hotel stays, B&Bs and holiday lets. Ministers say it will be up to local leaders entirely whether to impose it. And French police have arrested 4 more suspects over last month's Louvre jewel heist. 2 men and 2 women were detained this week, joining 4 others already under investigation. But authorities admit there's still no trace of the $100 million haul. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with the news at 6, and Martin back with you straight after this.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a beautiful day out there, and even where we've got some showers, they'll tend to ease during the rest of the day. Fine and sunny as we end the afternoon, but with clear skies overnight, it's certainly going to be a frosty one. A ridge of high pressure across the UK, low pressure moving away, so showers tending to ease, but a few continuing into the evening across parts of eastern England, a few more into western Scotland. Otherwise, for many, it is a clear start to the night, and as a result, temperatures will fall away. A widespread frost forming by dawn. We're looking at typical numbers inland and in urban areas of -1 Celsius, but in the countryside -2 to -6 degrees. Not so frosty to the west. Here we've got cloud and some outbreaks of rain into the north and west of Scotland. That rain turning heavier for a time during the morning, clouding over also across central Scotland, but still some sunshine to be had in the east. Northern Ireland also turning cloudy with outbreaks of rain increasingly heavy and persistent through the morning. Wales in the southwest, a bright start but increasing cloud from the west, whilst the Midlands, the east and the south and southeast of England see the lion's share of sunny skies, albeit with a chill first thing. We keep the sunshine across the southeastern quadrant into the afternoon, but elsewhere across the United Kingdom we've got thicker cloud moving in, a freshening breeze and outbreaks of rain into the north and the west. That will lift temperatures double figures towards the west and southwest. A colder feel in the east, but at least we keep the sunshine until the sun goes down in the far southeast. That's when these outbreaks of rain finally move through. They clear on Thursday, but it stays dull and damp in places, albeit with much higher temperatures compared with recent days.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living. Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there.
With expert analysis breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day all day tomorrow.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then. Yeah, as I say, now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:38. We've got that breaking news for you now, and it's this. Farmers have accused Scotland Yard of two-tier policing after the Metropolitan Police has announced in this past 20 minutes vehicle restrictions for farmers attending a protest planned tomorrow outside Parliament, of course, on Budget Day. A lot of people saying this is blatant two-tier policing, politically motivated clampdown. Is that incorrect? Well, let's bring in now the Shadow Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. That's Victoria Atkins MP. And I'm also joined by GB News' political editor Chris Hope and the former Labour advisor Paul Evans. Miss Atkins, I'll come to you if I could. This is a last-minute cancellation. I know the organisers of this. They're all planning to come down tomorrow, and they sincerely believe this is two-tier policing, a clampdown on farmers because it might embarrass the government.
Well, I'm afraid that is what it looks like. And obviously we will wait to hear more from the Met Police. But I know the timetable that these farmers, and by the way, these are farmers. They're not political activists. They're not people that are paid to do this. They are taking time from their farms to come to London to organise this protest because of the vindictive family farm and family business tax. And they were doing it on the day of budget because what's that old saying? No taxation without representation. They wanted to get this message through to the Chancellor tomorrow because this is the last chance, really, for her to change her mind on this tax. But I know the timetable. Apparently, they applied for permission on the 22nd of October, as they have done, perfectly lawfully, perfectly peacefully. That permission was granted by the Met Police on the 14th of November, and then, as you say, it was taken away this afternoon without warning. I do think there are questions here for the Met to answer, because otherwise, as you say, people are going to start drawing their own conclusions. And I think on a wider basis, what is this government frightened of? Are they frightened of the consequences of their own decisions, their own taxes that they are raising?
And Victor, could I just please have a word with our newsroom? Martin Williams, the organiser, he's happy to come on. Get Martin on the phone. Let's try and find out from the horse's mouth what is going on here. Chris Hope, you've got some more information there from the Metropolitan Police.
That's right. The Met Police have put out a statement saying this very briefly. While people will still be able to demonstrate, conditions have been put in place to prevent protesters from bringing vehicles, including tractors or other agricultural vehicles, to the protest. This was made due to the serious disruption that they may cause to the local area for businesses, emergency services and Londoners going about their day. Any person taking part in the protest must remain on Richmond Terrace, Whitehall, within the area of the map below. So they are saying that the issue was one of disruption for the area, businesses, emergency services and Londoners. The question remains, though, why allow it to happen a month ago and then rescind it the day before? Because looking at the Facebook groups here, they had a proper operation organised with marshals.
Just to interject, so Martin Williams, we're trying to get on the line. He's just messaged me saying that they have limited now, as to confirm, to a pavement, and they are refusing to close any roads. No vehicles allowed. It's a complete mess. So Victor Atkins, this has clearly taken the organisers completely by surprise. It's blindsided them. They'd booked the day off. They were all geared to come out, and it takes a long time to get these vehicles down here, and they will clearly believe they've had the rug pulled from under their feet in case it embarrasses the Chancellor on Budget Day. Yeah,
and I don't see that there's any alternative interpretation. You know, if surely it cannot be news that bringing tractors to London will have an impact on the traffic. Why was that not explained to people 2 weeks ago on the 14th of November when permission was granted? And why is it that on the very day that the Chancellor could do the decent thing and axe the family farm tax, why are they so worried about having people protesting, but also making clear the consequences of this dreadful tax? We've been, for the last year, GB News has been fantastic, if I may say so, but we have, in the House of Commons, we Conservatives have been forcing debates, asking questions, forcing votes to try to get the government to see sense. And now, the day before the budget, we have this decision, which will not only disappoint, but I fear it will also anger farmers who wanted to come to London in peace, but to make the point about how damaging this tax is going to be for their families and our food security. And now they've just been told they can't do that in the way that they had planned lawfully with the police to do so.
Paul Richards, the organisers of these protests have been in this studio many times, and they've told me repeatedly all they want to do is to sit down with the government and have a dialogue. They actually agree that those with the broadest shoulders should pay more tax. So the super farmers, perhaps even, dare I say it, the Jeremy Clarksons, but the smaller holders, the less than £5 million total, the small holdings that barely make any profit, those whose all of their assets are in the land, they want those people to be spared in a way that would still net the Chancellor the money that she clearly needs. We all know the country needs money. Why won't the government just talk to them rather than closing them down?
Well, I mean, that is a compelling argument, and those channels of communications are open. You can't possibly say she is not aware of those arguments, and the budget hasn't been passed yet, so let's see what's in the actual budget tomorrow. But on the transport issue, you know, you've just seen footage of the size of those tractors. I imagine the police, who've made an operational decision, by the way, something to do with ministers, have decided that, based on their intelligence of how many of these things were going to come into central London, have said, well, that's going to cause absolute disproportionate disruption to the city.
In a way, they didn't pull the plug on, I don't know, endless Just Stop Oil protests for all that time.
Well, they should have stopped those too. But they didn't. You can't have free-for-all in the middle of SW1, and for not least because it's St Thomas's Hospital, the roof of the ambulances goes through there, so you can't have that blocked up for hours with enormous agricultural machinery.
Victoria.
And this, we have a point of agreement in that, had the Chancellor had the guts to meet these farmers and discuss these concerns with them, that would be the much better way forward. The Chancellor has flat out refused to meet any of the farming organisations, any of the farmers. They have flat out refused to listen. When I have put cases, terribly tragic cases.
But your opposite number has met with the NFU many times. So those arguments are being made to the Cabinet.
The Chancellor is the person who controls the budget, and she has flat out refused to meet the NFU and other farming organisations to hear their side of the story.
Well,
and that is what has led to so much anger in the farming community.
If you were in
not being
government
listened
now,
to.
You wouldn't be allowing tractors to be blocking.
If we were in government now, we would
axe
the family farm tax and the family business tax. We wouldn't be in this mess in the first place.
Let's say it was a left-wing demo and they wanted to
we would not be in this mess in the first place.
And
I would also have the courtesy to meet the people whose taxes are having these taxes are having this terrible impact on families.
But that's a separate issue, isn't it?
It's not actually. It's about ministers doing their jobs.
Look at the size of these things.
Doing their jobs.
They're enormous.
Just got a quick statement here. I'm still trying. So Ollie Harrison, one of the organisers, is in London. He's trying to leg it here now before the end of the show. He probably won't make it, but I might try and get him on a later show in the studio. Just got a statement here come in from the Berkshire Farmers Group and all associated organisers, including but not limited to George Brown, Dan Willis and Caroline Graham. They wish to inform all attendees that this protest has been cancelled by Dr. Alison Haydari of the Metropolitan Police, and we absolve ourselves of all responsibilities for any attendance to this event. So that sounds to me like the farmers have had the frighteners put on them a bit. They're saying, don't attend, this is now nothing to do with us. Victoria Atkins, it just feels more and more like this is a clampdown.
I think there are very serious questions to be answered, and of course Ollie and others will be able to explain what happened. But again, I come back to the fact these are people, these are farmers. They're not in the habit of protesting every week, such as happens with some protesters that we know bring London to a standstill. They are coming off their farms from all over the country to try to get this government to listen to them, and this is the response that they've had. And by the way, with previous protests, the police, they've remarked upon the fact that the streets of London are cleaner after the farmers have had that protest because they do such a good cleaning up job afterwards. This is not a case where people are coming here with bad intent or wanting to do damage or harm. They're just trying to get the Chancellor to listen. And what's so depressing is that I've worked out that some 45 times now ministers have been asked, the Chancellor, the Prime Minister and other ministers have been asked at the dispatch box whether they'll change their minds on this. Will they? Do they stand by their figures? Will they listen to farmers? And they have refused, flat out refused. Let's hope tomorrow they do the right thing and axe the tax. But farmers are just trying to ensure that their voices are heard ahead of this dreadful budget of broken promises.
Chris Hope, we need to bring you back in here. This will, doesn't matter how it's dressed up by the Labour Party, they can blame the old bill. It looks exactly like the night before a major protest a major event. And I know the farmers tell me all the time, they feel like this is the desperate last roll of the dice to make a government listen. They've had that snatched away. However he dresses up, it looks like a clampdown.
It's their last chance of doing so before these changes come in. When the inheritance tax change rules are changed next year, I think the summer next year, isn't it? April next year it happens. And that's why they're so concerned about it. It was the last chance to sound their horns on Whitehall. What I'd be intrigued to know, as perhaps an MP, you can ask these questions, what changed between all those dates you said there when it was approved? What has happened today, tomorrow? Is something happening in London we don't know about? Why suddenly act at such a short notice? Because it does seem inexplicable to do it so quickly.
And I think that's a very fair question. And, I've been careful to say I think the Met have questions to answer. Clearly, if situations have changed since the 14th of November to such an extent, of course, we will all understand that. But at the moment, the answer that they have been given, from the answer they've been given, it's not clear why that situation has changed from the 14th of November when permission was first given.
OK, Victor Atkins, I know you have to dash off. Thank you very much for joining us. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you very, very much indeed. Gentlemen, we're still attempting to get one of the organisers on the line. I hope we can do that before the end of the show. In the meantime, gentlemen, let's just try and establish what we know so far. Chris, so this is being put down as an organisational issue, a traffic management issue, and we know thus far that this has now been contained to a small area of pavement, nothing like Plan A.
Yeah, an area called in front of Richmond House. It's formerly the NHS offices, or the Department of Health. Forgive me, Department of Health, NHS in Leeds, Department of Health, of course, and that's where they can gather. They can't bring any vehicles down there. There are no road closures. We won't have that little sea of tractors we saw previously for demonstrations. It might be because I don't think it's happened before on Budget Day, and Budget Day is a day of heightened security around Westminster. That of course they'll be closing off parts of Downing Street when the Chancellor emerges around 11ish, normally before the Budget Day with her battered Gladstone briefcase. So it might be that they feel there's just too much moving parts to coordinate with tractors outside. It might be that there could be a risk that the Chancellor couldn't get to the House of Commons to deliver her budget, because normally this protest doesn't happen on a day when the budget's on.
Can I just interject? I've just been sent a copy of the cancellation paper by one of the organisers. This is Clive Bailey, a farmer I have on the show often, and the box that's been ticked, an event map attached. The box that's been ticked is Option C. The assembly may result in serious disruption to the life of the community. So it wasn't cancelled because of a serious public disorder or a risk of damage to property. It was cancelled because of a serious disruption to the life of the community. So health and safety, traffic management, not about any potential aggro. This is the lanyard class once again clamping down on the working class.
Nice try, but it's not that at all, is it? It's about saying you can't bring in hundreds of vehicles, and presumably police intelligence, looking at the Facebook groups, realised the size of this would have completely swamped that bit of London to the point where we couldn't function. By the way, the route from Downing Street to the House of Commons goes past Richmond Terrace, this area that Chris is talking about. So Rachel Reeves will see the protesters as she sails by in her car. She will hear their voices. She will see their demo, their placards, and she will understand absolutely the anger and all the rest of it, because the demo is going ahead. It's just the tractors that are banned, not the farmers.
So you think that a few farmers now cordoned on to a little bit of pavement, waving placards will have any impact on the Chancellor, whereas hundreds of tractors and thousands of people thus far have not?
And then been shoved off into a park somewhere. It's on Whitehall. The Prime Minister and the Chancellor will drive past it, and the demo is going ahead, but it's on foot, not in tractors.
Plus, a wider question is what will happen in the budget for farmers. Now, Angela Eagle, who's the farming minister, she says there'll be no change, but there have been reports recently there might be a tweak to some of those allowances to allow to try and mitigate the damage to family farms.
I wouldn't be surprised, if that is one of the rabbits out of the hat. I think that it's entirely possible, that argument around, people of the Clarkson kind who can afford to pay more and not really proper farmers versus the working family farms you're talking about. It might well be that tweak takes place. And we this time tomorrow we will know. But as I say, the demo's going ahead because they've been given the part of Whitehall to demonstrate on. But what you can't do, anyone, left or right, is just bring the city to a halt.
And what is clear, Martin, is the huge disappointment amongst farmers who are ready to demonstrate. And it's a real sickening blow for them, given little has changed, frankly. I mean, what has changed between yesterday, today and tomorrow? The only thing that's different is the budget's on, but the police would have been well aware of that happening.
Well, I've been organised by... OK, we have got a guest now. We have now got Dan Willis, who has been organising this protest. Farmer Dan Willis. Dan, terrible news for you boys and girls. The farming protest has been cancelled. Why?
Well, we don't know, to be honest with you, Martin. This is George and Caroline, fellow organisers of tomorrow's event. We've been working in conjunction with the Met since around about 6 weeks ago. And we've had absolutely no issues at all. Everything was fine. We talked through a run through yesterday even with no problem at all. They flagged up there was some potential issues. And this afternoon, over a Zoom call, we learned that we could no longer have a static display of machinery to keep a focus. Unfortunately, they've given us a very, very tiny area which we could probably just about park 2 Land Rovers on, which is nowhere near the effect that we were hoping to achieve on the day.
Can I interject quickly and ask you just for your visceral, emotional response to this? You must be devastated at this.
We are, Martin, absolutely. We've been working on this for months. Well, not months, for over a month now. We've had a great relationship with the Met, to be honest. I mean, the liaison officers have been super. This decision today, I heard on the news just now about it being about mass disruption on the way in and out of London. The public have been so supportive of us going in and out of London every single time. We've kept with the flow of the traffic. And I mean, this is 400 tractors we were talking of, up to 400 tractors we're talking about. How many movements are there in London each
6 million.
day? There's 16 million movements a year in London. It's a drop in the ocean.
OK, could I get a word from the lady there at the front, if I may? How are you feeling about this? You look devastated.
I feel it. Absolutely feel it. I cannot believe that we cannot protest rightfully and you get all these other radical people and we have never caused any problem. What is the problem? To pull the plug now, I can't stop people. We can't stop people. People will still come down. It is not in our control to be able to stop people. Farmers feel so strongly about their livelihoods, you're talking. We go to work every day and feed those cattle or whatever.
OK, I have to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm passing the baton now to Jubes & Co, the Queen of Primetime Debate. Jubes, what's on your menu?
Martin, isn't it always fascinating? They don't mind all this pro-Palestine lot bringing London, the surrounding areas to a halt week in, week out, but the farmers, seems like very different rules. Look, so much we need to talk about: misogyny, mobility, also the world's strongest woman, a Brit, missed out on that because they allowed a male to enter, and guess what? The male beat the females. Who'd have thought it? And jury trials as well, majority of court cases now set to do without them. What do you think to that? See you in a sec.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In Newcastle upon Tyne, the A1 southbound at the junction with the A69 has significant delays due to a road collision, with 2 out of 3 lanes closed. Drivers should expect normal traffic to resume by 7:15 this evening. In Hertfordshire, a collision on the A1M southbound at junction 7 has closed 1 lane, delaying drivers by about 10 minutes, with conditions expected to clear by 9:15. Further disruptions are reported in Kent, where the M20 westbound entry slip at junction 9 is shut due to another collision, and lanes are expected to reopen by 9:34. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6